Joining us as we approach the top of the hour, there has been reports of 2 National Guard members shot in D.C. This is happening near the White House. You see that live picture of the White House on the right side of your screen. On the left side of the screen, that is live pictures from Skyfox. This is in the area of 17th and I Street in Northwest D.C. A heavy police presence. So far, no word on a suspect, no word on those 2 National Guard members' conditions. What we do know is the president and first lady not at home. There were reports of a possible active shooter. We have not confirmed that. We have also not heard whether there have been any other injuries at this point. But as you can see, there is a heavy police presence. We've also seen pictures from people in the area of 17th and K Streets. That's near Farragut Park, where the metro lines run, also where Connecticut Avenue, just south of DuPont Circle, before you hit that Federal Triangle area of road shutdown, Secret Service on the scene, Metro Transit on the scene. So a lot of agencies out in response to this shooting investigation so far.
And right now, Metro Transit police is saying that they're on scene at Farragut West. They're investigating the reported shooting outside the station. So they're asking, avoid Farragut West if you can. And right now we have a Fox 5 crew on the scene. We're trying to get live pictures from the ground, but right now you're looking at Skyfox live video from above the area of 17th and I, just blocks away from the White House in Northwest D.C., where if you're just now joining us here at the top of the hour, we are learning that 2 National Guard members have been shot in D.C. We do not know what their condition is at this point. We do not know if there is a suspect or shooter in custody, but initial reports from our sources telling us that there was an active shooter reported in the area of 17th and I Street in Northwest D.C. just in the last 20 to 30 minutes or so. And you can see a very heavy police presence, Secret Service, Metropolitan Police Department, Metro Transit Police are all on scene right now on 17th and I Street. Again, as we mentioned, the president and first lady have already gone down to Florida for their Thanksgiving holiday, so they are not at the White House. And it's not clear yet if the White House is actually locked down, but they are cordoning off all of the streets around 17th and I, so they're shutting it down to both vehicle and pedestrian traffic as this very active investigation is underway right now.
So if your Thanksgiving travel plans take you through the heart of the city, or you are just planning on going home, there are road closures. The 500 to 900 blocks of 17th Street from New York Avenue to K Street Northwest, 800 block of Connecticut Avenue from H Street to I Street Northwest. So this is south of DuPont Circle at this point. The 1600 and 1700 blocks of K Street from 18th Street to 16th Street Northwest, 1500 to 1700 blocks of I Street from 18th Street to 15th Street Northwest, and the 16 and 1700 blocks of H Street from 18th Street to Connecticut Avenue Northwest. Of course, we also imagine there could be some impact to Metro, since there are 2 Metro stops so close to where this investigation is currently underway.
And right now the White House is releasing a statement. Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, saying that the White House is aware and actively monitoring this tragic situation, and the president has been briefed. Again, if you're just now joining us here at the top of the hour, we're learning 2 National Guard members have been shot in D.C. This is just a couple of blocks away from the White House. You're looking at live pictures from Skyfox overhead of 17th and I Street Northwest. As we are learning, 2 National Guard members have been shot. We do not know their condition at this hour. We do not know if there are any other injuries, but you can see dozens of emergency vehicles, first responders on scene, MPD, Secret Service, Metro Transit Police are all in the area right now. Metro Transit saying to avoid Farragut West as a stop if you can. And again, all of those streets near 17th and I. We are trying to get a crew.
D.C. Police Department tweeted out 4 minutes ago, the scene is secured. 1 suspect is in custody. They still encouraging people to avoid the area, but 4 minutes ago, the DC Police Department did say that the scene is secured and one suspect is in custody, but that no word on who that suspect is, a possible motive, or the extent of the injuries at this time.
And we know, at one point, at the height of the National Guard deployment here in D.C., there were some 1,500 members, and they came from all over the country, Ohio, Texas, Kentucky. And so we have seen them. All right, we do have our Julie Donaldson live on the street here. So we're going to toss out live to her. Julie, can you tell us what you're seeing?
Yeah, so Homa, we're here on I Street, and there is a heavy police presence. You can see a bunch of police lights flashing down here on I Street. The whole road is blocked off as we are walking up. There is police that is directing cars to go in opposite directions as this road is closed off. We're working our way a little bit closer, so we don't really have any information on anything as of now. But as we were leaving Capital One Arena, getting ready for that game, you heard police coming from all different directions. And obviously it was very clear that something was going on, but you can just see by the amount of cars that are here right now, the amount of flashing lights. This is a pretty big scene. People are walking around trying to wonder what is going on, what is happening here. As we do get closer, of course, we'll bring you every bit of information that we can gather. But all we have right now is that these streets are just lined with every kind of cop car and every kind of presence that they can to figure out what is going on as we do get closer to the metro station.
What do we know? Julie, we see dozens and dozens of police officers there right now, MPD saying that the scene is secure. Give us, for perspective of folks who are just now joining in here at the top of the hour, how close are you to the White House?
Looks like we're probably about a block off of it here. We are just coming up to, we are just past 16th and I. We're coming up to Connecticut Boulevard right now. There's a lot of people that are really curious as to, what is going on. You're seeing a lot of folks standing around here. As you see, there is the police tape that has all of this blocked off. Fire, rescue, police, heavy military presence. You can see the National Guard over there on the other side as well. Again, we're not too far off from the White House here at I and Connecticut Street, right next to the metro station, the Farragut Metro Station as well, which is where they say that the Metro Police were saying that there was an active issue going on here, and they're telling people to stay away from it. But of course, the curiosity has a lot of folks here trying to wonder just what is going on as we're trying to figure that out ourselves.
Right, and we see the crowd of people, and we also see the National Guard members there on the corner of the street. I see that they've cordoned off the road in the area, not just to vehicle traffic, but also obviously to pedestrian traffic. So it is a very secure scene. They've clearly locked everything down there in the area of 17th and 16th and I Street in Northwest where you are.
Yeah, you do. And you have a lot of tourists here that are here for the holidays. People coming in, wanting to be able to explore down TDC. You have a lot of hotels, a lot of people that are out enjoying this weather. It was a really beautiful day, an abnormally warm day for this time of the year. So there's been a lot of presence of foot traffic around the city right now. And police have been telling and trying to get the word out, telling people to stay away from the area, give them some space to be able to do the work that they need to do. But again, there's just so many people that are out right now. A lot of people trying to take pictures with their phones. We can't quite see exactly what is happening on the other side of those police cars, but again, you do see the National Guard over there. You do see police coming and going. A lot of marked cars, a lot of unmarked cars here as well, and they have the entire street in this area blocked off with the police line of do not enter, do not cross. So for anybody that is trying to get around here, you are going to have to go all the way around, either if you're on foot or for any car traffic. So a little bit of a backup as they are trying to make sure that they keep this scene as clear and as safe for them to be able to do their investigation as possible. Homa.
Thank you so much. I'm going to let you go and gather information here for a few minutes, but as we see on your live pictures, you see ATF, Secret Service, National Guard, and we are just now hearing the AP is reporting that a suspect is in custody. Julie, we'll check back in with you here in just a few minutes. Thank you so much. Meanwhile, I want to bring in our expert, Sheriff Rich Giordano, joining us now live as we we look at Skyfox over the scene. Rich, this is all happening just a block away from the White House. And if you're just now joining us, we're understanding that 2 National Guard members have been shot in D.C. Their conditions unknown, but we are learning from the AP right now that they're reporting a suspect is in custody. And D.C. police saying the scene is secure and it is contained. As you're joining us now, Rich, walk us through kind of what you're seeing and what the next movements will be from this massive police presence.
Well, here you got multiple agencies working together, which they do in D.C. all the time. So you got the National Guard, of course. We're all hoping and praying that the guardsmen are not seriously injured. When they report D.C. police as 1 individual's in custody, listen, we've had these reports when things happen immediately, but that doesn't mean that there's only 1 individual. It means a person is detained, and they may or may not be the shooter. They seem to indicate that it is the shooter. But what I can see from the scene is the way they have so much law enforcement presence and so many bystanders with cameras and standing around. I do agree, number one, it's probably not an active scene anymore because they would not have bystanders. They would have been out of the area. Number 2, they're already probably at intelligence centers looking at all the cameras for the area to see what they can find. There's body cameras from the police, the National Guard. I'm not sure if they're equipped with body cameras, but all the street cameras and stores have cameras. They are probably checking them immediately. Now, my family, actually, my grandparents were from Connecticut Avenue North. So this is a very hectic time. We're talking about 3 o'clock on a Wednesday night before Thanksgiving. And like you said, it's inundated with the visitors to the area. So what will happen next is they'll archive and record all the data they have on the cameras. They'll try to see what they can piece together. Hopefully the guardsmen are well enough to be interviewed and they can give them some idea of what happened. Now, being in the proximity of the White House, the first thing is a red flag is they probably, if they haven't locked down the White House, we understand the president and the first lady are not there, they probably certainly secured the perimeter as tight, much tighter than they had, to just be aware that it may not be over, it may be a distraction. We don't know if the person was coming off the subway or going underground. Or persons. Again, I say pause a little bit because the initial reports are not always accurate.
Right.
I think that we're going to hear a lot of information coming out. But like I said, look right now as the bystanders are on the corners. They got cameras. It doesn't. If it was live scene or active shooter, they would be running. They wouldn't be there.
Right.
So I'm sure the police secured the area. And again, look at all the agencies you have. So you got to have a communications. There's comms problems when you have so many agencies involved. And when I say comms, I mean communications problems. So the immediacy is to get medical attention to the National Guardsmen, secure the area, take anyone into custody, whether they could be the suspected shooter or whether they could be a participant, or bring some people aside, detain them until they can ascertain if they were involved and what information they may have to assist.
And again, if you're just now joining us, you're looking at live pictures just about a block away from the White House near 17th and I, 16th and I. You see ATF, Secret Service, D.C. Police, and National Guard members. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem confirming that 2 Guard members have been shot. We do not know their condition at this hour, but D.C. Police, they do have 1 suspect in custody at this time. People in the area reporting they heard a couple of shots before this happened, just around in the 2 o'clock hour, and you see a massive police presence, but you also see a massive presence of bystanders just behind that police tape, Rich. You see people out with their cameras, their phones, trying to document exactly what is happening. This is about a block away from the White House. The president and the first lady, like you said, are not in the area. They have already left down to Florida for the Thanksgiving holiday, but there are a lot of tourists, a lot of visitors, a lot of people coming back home to D.C. on this Wednesday before Thanksgiving. A lot of people were not in office today, but you can see that area is still very, very busy at this hour.
Yeah, it raises a lot of questions because we do not know if it's related to a separate crime or if they were targeted. We don't know if it has anything at all to do with the White House. Because of the distance, probably not, but we don't know if these National Guardsmen may have intercepted a person or persons who had firearms noticeable. We don't know yet if it was a handgun or long arm. I will say that, again, I just caution everybody, we're going to get a lot more information pouring into us in the next hour from police sources, news media, and until we get a better understanding of what's going on, don't necessarily rely on the first things we hear. I do think, I'm watching the law enforcement on the screen, and you see, like you said, ATF, FBI, Secret Service, National Guard, and Washington Metro PD, they're all conferring. A lot of them are conferring. So they were all looking at their phones or looking at a screen. It could be an iPad or something. I'm wondering if they have something already that they're looking for any other individuals, or are they discussing a plan of how they're going to proceed, because they are invariably going to speak to inevitably going to speak to all the bystanders that are around to see when they started filming, if they have anything that helps.
Right. Rich, your insight is invaluable. We're going to be checking in with you in just a minute. But I want to bring in Yemisi Agbawale. You work at the White House so often. You have such great insight, behind the scenes knowledge of what goes on when it comes to security, safety down there. When something like this happens, just a block away from the White House, what are some of the protocols that are in place that you can talk about?
Right. I can tell you that everybody inside of the White House and also in the Department of Treasury got a security alert that told them that there was something suspicious happening outside. For something major like this, they would automatically send out a red alert. Oftentimes, if it is just a suspicious vehicle, a package, if it's somebody in Lafayette Park that they think might be dangerous, they just send something out and caution people on what exits to use. For something like this, when it's multi-block, they let people know right away that you are not leaving work and you might as well stay exactly where you are. They also tell people that news is developing in real time. But we also know that there are reporters there currently at the White House press pool, that operate out of there in the offices there. And so I'm sure right away everybody from their respective news organizations reached out to folks, and so they have people. I saw just from the live footage reporters that I recognized that were standing outside, and so you have a lot of pedestrians and watchers that are gathering, but you also have a lot of people inside that are thinking about next steps and ways to get in contact with the president.
And you see the police tape crisscrossing every which way in that area right now on 17th and I, 16th and I. And as we take a look at this Skyfox shot from over the scene, you see the White House in the background, and then dozens and dozens of emergency responders, first responders that are in that area. And right now we're just getting into the newsroom that the Associated Press is reporting that the two guardsmen who were shot are in critical condition. If you've been in D.C., over the last several months, if you go into the district, anywhere you go, whether it is at a metro stop, the National Mall, in your neighborhood, you have seen these guardsmen and women walking the streets, and they have come from all over. So we don't know where these have come from, these two that were shot, and the AP is reporting that they're in critical condition. But they have come from places like Ohio and Kentucky and Texas, and they have been here for months now.
Right. And important to note that in all of those areas, there is a great amount of Secret Service, and Secret Service oftentimes are certified in EMS, so we know that the Secret Service that rushed to the scene had already been trained in ways to help. And so hopefully as the bystanders got out of the way, they were able to really help the National Guard there. And it's so sad to think about all of these people that came here under orders because they made the brave decision to protect and serve, and here they are now. And just at a time when we were told that the National Guard was going to be able to leave, we have this happen when we really haven't had any serious fraught incidents with the National Guard. They've been able to operate in this city, which I'm sure Mayor Bowser has been proud of, that the city has welcomed them and they've been here, and there haven't been any kind of overt violent incidents involving the National Guard.
Every time I have been out and about in D.C., the response I've gotten from people is they've enjoyed having them here because they are friendly, they are helpful. For months, they were helping clean up the district. They were mulching, they were picking up trash, they were making D.C. beautiful. And to have this happen, again, like you said, as they've just received orders to start dwindling those numbers and start leaving the district is really heartbreaking. We don't know where these two guards members have come from. We don't know anything about their background right now, but we are hearing that they are in critical condition after being shot. And again, we know from DC police that one suspect is in custody. This was some sort of active shooting. We don't know what led up to it. But again, just a block from the White House on this Thanksgiving Eve.
And thankfully, the president and the first lady, of course, had already left for Thanksgiving. But had the president and first lady been there, I think we would have seen even more increased police presence from all law enforcement agencies in this. I mean, it was great to see law enforcement rush to the scene and follow protocol and shut down the corresponding blocks. I think it makes complete sense if those blocks stay shut down for an extended amount of time until they figure out who saw what and if there's any evidence to be gathered.
We're going to go back out live to our Julie Donaldson, who is on the scene right now, joining us live near 16th and I. Julie, you have somebody with you.
All right, thanks, Oma. We're here with Stacey. Stacey said she was here when she kind of heard everything that was unfolding. Stacey, tell us a little bit about what time did this all happen and what did you hear and see at the moment?
It was about 2:15 p.m. I was going to my lunch break, heading to the Ronald Reagan building to go to the dry cleaners. I was in the Uber. I heard right in front of 17th Street, and I heard boom, boom, 2 times. And then the Uber driver said, "Why are all these people running?" So then I look out the window, and it's little children, adults running, children on both sides of the street, running in the opposite direction. The supervision is saying to the children, "Go, go, run." And then I heard, "Help, help," in the direction of the shooting. But I don't know if it was the shooter or if it was someone trying to help the shooter. I had to take out my contacts because my eyes were irritated. But the Uber driver did say to me the individual who did the shooting had a hood on over their head. And I thought to myself, I had literally just said to the Uber driver, "It's such a beautiful day." So then the Uber, and I said, "Why would someone have a hood?" So that to me makes me feel like maybe the individual planned this. And then the police response or Secret Service guarded men, professional level, government level, quickly came from all directions running.
Yeah, how long from you hearing the noises that you heard and the booms that you heard before there was like police presence coming out here?
It was seconds. It was seconds. We're on the street, and they immediately told us, "You have to turn around. You have to turn around." Yeah, it was within seconds. Like, I was super impressed.
Did you see the person that was running the associate in the hood? Did you see anybody down on the ground? Is all the extent of the injuries?
No, I only saw the individuals who were running in the opposite direction, the children and the little children. They looked like they were only 5.
What kind of emotions is that stirring you in that moment, seeing everything unfold?
I thought to myself, it was a beautiful day. A beautiful day. It's the holidays. Imagine these little children, something would have happened to them. Like, that's heartless. No parent wants to bury their child. And it was so many. The little children were on both sides of the street.
How long before you feel that they got this place safe and contained? Because right now everything is pretty much blocked off.
Oh my gosh, let's talk about that. So I did go to the Ronald Reagan building to pick up my stuff from the dry cleaners, and I had to get out the Uber to walk back now because everything is blocked. And I didn't expect that. I thought I was going to come back this way in my Uber, everything was going to be resolved. And like I said, it occurred around 2:15, so it's definitely something major that happened. I've never seen anything like this in my life.
Have you talked to any police or any security on what you did see here?
No, I have to get back to work.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Stacey, thank you very much for sharing what you saw and witnessed here tonight. Yeah, thank you so much, Stacey. Okay, so here we have again. There's a lot of people out here. Just saying, a lot of people are here for the holidays. As Stacey was saying, it really is a beautiful day. So we've seen a lot of foot traffic out here, but the roads are currently closed off. You can see them at times lowering the police signs to let more police officers go through. The yellow tape that's up here. Despite this being such a heavy presence, people are relatively calm. You're not getting an oversense of fear. It's more almost just kind of like a curiosity. And I think that's a testament to the fact that you can tell that the police presence here does have things under control, and it doesn't seem like there's any danger or risk that is presenting to anybody right now. Of course, if that was the case, I'm sure everybody would be pushed back much further. But you can see all the different units working together. You can see all the different police out here making sure that people do not get into areas that interferes with what they are trying to do. Both roads are closed off here, right near the metro. As Stacey was saying, at the time everybody was running, a lot of that panic, a lot of that fear has died down at this point, but the response has been quick. The response is heavy. You're not getting anywhere around this area. We can see further, it looks maybe down the road. down here on I Street, a little bit further down. It looks like you can see a little bit more police presence kind of moving back and forth down there. I can't quite see exactly what units are down there, but you do have all of them out. Look, this is a time where the National Guard has been here in D.C. for a while. During that time, there's been a lot of talk and a lot of praise on the number of homicides decreasing, the crime in D.C. going down with their presence here. Of course, now that, it's talks out there that some of the National Guard actually has been involved in this. They have been a victim of some of this crime. That tells a very different story of what everybody is experiencing out here today, Homa.
Julie, thank you so much. We're going to check back in with you in just a little bit, but we are hearing that the White House, again, you're about a block from the White House is on lockdown even at this hour right now. We know D.C. police saying one suspect is in custody, but these are very early hours right now, still gathering information. You see the massive police presence right now on your screen. You're seeing ATF, National Guard, Secret Service, FBI, all gathered in that area on Connecticut, on I Street. Again, just about a block away from the White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt saying that the president has been briefed on this situation. They're actively monitoring the tragic situation that has unfolded, leaving 2 National Guard members shot and in critical condition at this hour. I want to go back to Sheriff Rich Giordano joining us now live. Rich, as you're seeing this scene unfolding, this massive police presence in this area, we do want to note that the president and the first lady are not at the White House right now. They are currently down in Florida. They left yesterday for the Thanksgiving holiday. We would have been seeing a much different scene had they been there. But again, this is one of the most heavily protected areas in the entire country, if not the entire world, with the amount of Secret Service and law enforcement in just that surrounding few square blocks.
Well, proper protocol says even if the president and first lady are not in D.C., right now they've probably doubled their security and moved them to a safe location because you don't know if this is related. Again, my thoughts and prayers go out to these National Guardmen and their families. One thing that's very disturbing is that these National Guardsmen are from all over the country. They have different rules of engagement than local law enforcement as far as weapons, what they can do. But Wendy, she was a great witness because what we can learn from her is if he had a hoodie on, this person, and they were both shot and in critical condition, they may not have been expecting it. It may have been part of his plan. She did say that, like he planned it, because it's a beautiful day. Why has he got a hoodie on? So that causes me more concern that these individuals may have been targeted, or the National Guard may have stumbled upon another crime that this individual was committing. But she really, and I encourage anyone who's listening, who was down there at the time but couldn't stick around, wait a couple hours, call DC police, give their name, their phone number, their address, and let them know if they saw something or have something on their cameras, because that's going to become vital, critical pieces of evidence that may help piece this together. Again, right now they say one person they think is the shooter is in custody, but it's too preliminary to know exactly if there were more individuals involved, one in the planning, whether it was a targeted event on these National Guardsmen, which I hope it wasn't. We hope they pull through. But also think of what's going on now. There's family members from all over this country on their cell phones reaching out to their National Guardsmen family members to see if they're okay. Absolutely. And some people are not going to get a call back right away, or not going to get a call back. And that's got to be very frightening and very concerning. I also think that the people in the government buildings that are on lockdown, they're probably watching us on TV, but they also, it's got to be very terrifying and scary for some of them. One thing that's weird is, like you said, the lockdown has all these people gathered on the street. We've been so conditioned that people aren't afraid to come back to the scene once the police are there. But this is a catastrophic incident. You would think that many people would still want to stay away, but we're a rubbernecking society.
Absolutely.
And again, you had some great insight about the buildings being locked down from your other reporter. And Wendy, like I said, I think that was her name, I thought she gave a pretty good description of what happened and how quickly it happened. Because by the time they left, went to the Ronald Reagan building, dropped her clothes, and came back, the whole streets were all closed down, and it was a calmer scene. but still, it tells you how quickly they reacted. All the officers, some have body cameras, most probably do, so they're going to get together. We'll get more information, but at this time, I really urge people to keep these guardsmen and women in their thoughts and prayers, and we'll see what happens. There's going to be a lot of evidence to be collected. They're going to be looking for the gun or guns. They're going to be looking for any shell casings that might have been discharged. They're going to scan to see where he came from. Did he come from the subway? Did he come from a street? Where was he? So he'll be checking all kinds of cameras in the next several days. And there's a move, unfortunately, in this country to try to get rid of facial imaging, try to eliminate us in law enforcement using it as a tool. But these are an example why you need that, because if we can get a picture of the guy, a person with a hoodie, guy or woman, and they can track it down by looking at the cameras and tracking other people with hoodies, that is stuff that helps us as investigative tools.
Right,
so much of it.
And I want to just interrupt you here for a second. Fox 5 learning from sources that 3 people were transported from that scene, 2 National Guard members and 1 other person, all 3 with gunshot wounds. And at this hour, we're not sure what that 3rd person's condition is, the extent of the injuries, but we are learning that the 2 National Guard members are suffering critical injuries, taken to the hospital right now. So 3 people in total transported from that scene here in the last hour, and you see that very heavy police presence. And when we talk about the National Guard being in the district, we know at one point their numbers were as high as 1,500. And just in the last week, a judge ruling that states allowing their National Guards members to be here in D.C. was unlawful. They put that on pause just to not mess with operational security and their operations. But that was supposed to expire on December 11th. Just in a few short weeks, they were meant to return back to their homes. We don't know where the 2 who have been shot were from, if they're from D.C., if they're from another state. We are learning that their condition right now is critical, but 3 people in total taken. And when we look at this scene, we look at the massive police presence and we see officers with their body cameras. Every one of those buildings, Embassy, has a camera on it.
Right.
These lights have cameras on it. So
most surveilled area.
As Rich said, they're going to have a plethora of evidence to go through.
And I think that's why it's a bit shocking that this incident happened exactly where it did, because we have had a strong National Guard presence. And while there may have been some folks in D.C. that took some issue with it in certain areas, we saw like Navy Yard, down by the wharf. For this area, it is just not uncommon to see a heavy law enforcement presence. It doesn't matter what agency they're associated with. So for something like this to happen to National Guard, where they usually are, the proximity to the National Mall means that there was an increased presence, as well as most of our federal agencies are located in that radius as well. Thinking about Treasury, DOI, I know the FBI is just a couple blocks away. It's just a bit shocking with this heavy amount of law enforcement's presence that something like this could happen to someone.
And you see the officers that are on scene right now are asking people to push back a little bit. There's a massive crowd of bystanders, not just news crews, but bystanders, people who were either at their office this day before Thanksgiving, tourists that are in town for the holiday, people that are in this very highly trafficked part of D.C. I want to go now to national security analyst Armin Kurdian with Armin. Are you here with us now?
Here, I can hear you.
Okay, so when you're looking at this massive police presence, there police tape crisscrossing this entire area where it's just a block from the White House, and you have ATF, Secret Service, FBI, DC Police, Metro Transit Police, just everybody converging on this area. Again, one of the most highly protected areas in the country. Tell me your thoughts as you're watching this unfold.
Well, first of all, my heartfelt condolences to the family members of those brave soldiers who were shot, along with their fellow soldiers and their commanding officers and their support staff. This is absolutely inexcusable. And frankly, I would like to see this considered domestic terrorism. Any premeditated attack on law enforcement, I believe, is domestic terrorism of a form, because this is this is going after our government. This is going after law enforcement, and this is a loosely coordinated effort that you see across the country. I am very heartened to see the massive response there that hopefully perhaps will deter future attacks like this. The coordinated response between the police, fire, and other emergency authorities. This is the kind of response that we need in our nation's capital to come down very quickly, especially our seat of government, which is a target not only by some of the folks like this, but from folks all over the world. So I very much hope they find these people, to find out what inspired them to do this. And this kind of thing this is not acceptable in our country. This has got to stop.
Yeah, and D.C. police telling us that they do have one person in custody. It's not clear yet how many people were involved in the shooting, but MPD is setting up a staging area just a couple blocks away over on K Street. So we're hoping that they do have some sort of news conference in the coming minutes so we can learn more information. Again, this is all coming in very quickly. You see police, they're on scene asking people to push back. You see a lot of people with their phones out, their cameras out, along with news crews. And I do want to tell you right now, Reagan National Airport has issued a ground stop. This is in effect until 4 p.m. They're saying it is due to security, no other information involved, but a ground stop right now at Reagan National Airport. We know hundreds and hundreds of flights are taking off from DCA, Dulles, BWI today as people either head home or come back home to the district, to the DMV for this Thanksgiving holiday. So that will be impacting people's travel plans. This area around 16th, 17th I streets in downtown DC, just near the White House, they're blocking off roads to both pedestrian and vehicular traffic. So there will be many impacts of this to come as this investigation really is just beginning. And Armin, when you look at the amount of cameras in that area, there is going to be much to glean.
Yes, definitely. I know there's techniques such as artificial intelligence that can do facial recognition much faster than the old days, where it's just people looking through these pictures. Now you can cross-match. You can find this suspect, find out where they were using other video feeds that they have, and quickly build a picture so much faster than you were able to do before, and find out if you had any additional co-conspirators that were going on. Look, these kinds of attacks, we're seeing these happen almost on a daily basis. All over the country, these premeditated attacks on law enforcement. These guys were just out there protecting the city. It sounds flippant to say that, about putting their lives on the line, just like anyone who wears a uniform, whether it's a firefighter, police officer, soldier, sailor, Air Force, Marine. Every day going out, getting paid to protect the public, and for the public to come out and actually attack them is wholly unacceptable, as the antithesis of everything that we are as a constitutional republic. And I would think, yep.
Thank you so much for your insight. I just real quick want to read a post on Truth Social from President Donald Trump. He says the animal that shot the two National Guardsmen, with both being critically wounded and now in two separate hospitals, is also severely wounded. But regardless, will pay a very steep price. God bless our great National Guard and all of our military and law enforcement. These are truly great people. I, as President of the United States, and everyone associated with the office of the presidency, am with you. President Donald Trump just posted that here in the last few minutes online. And I want to go live now to our Bob Barnard, who is live in front of the White House. Bob, what is the scene there?
Yeah, Homa, there's music playing, but it's actually fairly quiet. I thought there might be more tourists here, but they've probably just gone down the street. This is the White House here. You're looking at Lafayette Square, which is on lockdown, and there, in some places where the public would normally walk, there is police tape, but there also, you see these heavily armed uniformed Secret Service agents right here on the property here. This is National Park Police property, but they appear to be Secret Service officers here. And just as you would see on a normal day, just a small group of people playing music and having a little bit of a protest here. One looks like anti-Trump, and then there's another one here as well. But this whole complex is closed off, and many streets around here. So pedestrians are able to walk down the sidewalk. That's why you see people standing here. But this is H Street, right in front of the famous St. John's Episcopal Church here. The street is closed to traffic, as is I Street, 1 block north, starting at 15th Street. So there is a wide perimeter here, and this is looking back against what would be normally traffic down 8th Street toward 17th. So that's where you see the police tape there is going to be keeping anybody from walking or driving there, beyond that point. And you see D.C. police are here helping to maintain the perimeter as well. So where you're looking from Doug Wilkes's camera, his facing right down there, is the scene 1 block south of where the shooting was. So the intersection with the flashing lights that you're seeing there is 17th and H. So 1 block north to the right of your screen there would be where this happened, just to show you how close it was to the White House. And obviously there are a lot of plainclothes detectives and others, as you see this gentleman here, actually who I recognize. How you doing? There are a lot of law enforcement, Metro Transit Police, MPD, U.S. Park Police, and Secret Service all involved. And I'll tell you, Homa, on our way here to the White House to help assist in the coverage, we saw a large police and fire presence right down by Capital One Arena. And we believe there's a Caps game tonight, and we thought perhaps it had to do with the shooting here, but it was an elderly couple that had lost control and smashed into a building along 7th Street, basically right across the street excuse me, I said 17th, 7th Street at I, right across basically from Capital One Arena. And there were National Guard troops standing there helping to provide perimeter security down at that scene. So if you've been downtown and you thought the National Guard were gone, they are not. They were at that scene, and they were here at 17th and I earlier this afternoon at the time of the shooting. Homa.
Bob, it is such a stark contrast to see your camera and your perspective right there in front of the White House, Lafayette Park, and to see the active scene just a block away. It seems so calm where you are, so chaotic where Julie's camera is. Bob, we'll check in with you in just a little bit. Is there something you want to show us?
I think that's good.
You doing all right?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, just saying hi to people I know here, trying to see if there's any more information.
Okay,
but
we'll
again,
let you gather.
Homa, before we go, I'm just going to mention that, we believe the one suspect is in custody, but they're obviously taking it seriously. Here is a uniformed, heavily armed man at Lafayette Square maintaining the lockdown at the White House, even right now.
Okay, Bob, we'll check in with you in just a little bit. Thank you so much. We're going to head over to Julie Donaldson now, who is live at the scene. Julie, what's the latest that you can tell us now?
So, Homa, we were further down, and the police, they just pushed everybody back up to 16th Street. They wanted to expand the area where they're doing this investigation, and you saw the heavily presence there. They were moving those ropes back. All of the media, there's dozens of media out here covering this, trying to figure out what is going on as this is unfolding right here in front of us, just again a block from where Bob's at the White House. So they did push everybody back a block, and that included everybody that was out there kind of just curious as what was going on. We came across Trisha. Trisha said you heard sirens and she was in the area wanting to check out the White House. What was just your reaction when you heard everything that was kind of going down?
At first we just heard sirens and didn't think much of it. We continued to walk. We were working our way to another metro station, and then security obviously was getting tighter. We asked one of the Secret Service agents if this was temporary or normal security, and he said temporary. And then we just happened to walk upon is it Farragut Square, where all this was happening.
And you're from Georgia. What brings you up to D.C. for the holidays?
Our son lives here, so we're visiting him. He's working today. So
when you're talking to people down there that are going on, what are people saying out of their curiosity with such the presence that's going on here?
We didn't really hear anything.
Yeah. What's just your reaction to kind of this unfolding and knowing that, there's a shooter and there's been injuries as well to National Guard?
It made us wonder if we needed to get out of the area quickly. The other side is there's so much security and police presence here now, we figure it's fairly safe.
And what have you been able to do so far in D.C. before this?
We went to the Portrait Museum today and had lunch.
Any concerns on safety as you continue on?
We had no concerns on safety, and I feel fairly safe.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Of course, a part of that feeling safe is that there is such a heavy presence here. We've heard so many different people that I've talked to, some of them didn't want to go on camera, trying to say what they saw, what they heard at the time. It's just a lot of speculation because some numbers have been very different from one to the next. But again, we continue to wait to see what information more we do have coming out on what actually took place here, aside from what we already have, Homa.
Julie Donaldson on scene for us, speaking with witnesses, people in the area. As you heard from that woman visiting from Georgia, a lot of people are in town to see their family, to see their friends. A lot of people have returned back home to the district, living in other places. So a very active scene right now. Julie, thank you. We'll check back in with you in just a little bit. I'll let you go gather as we take a live look at Skyfox over the scene here at 17th and I, just again a block from the White House. Many streets have been shut down, both to vehicular and pedestrian traffic. If you're just now joining us, we know that 2 National Guard members have been shot. They are in critical condition. A third person, also with a gunshot wound, was transported from the scene. D.C. police saying they do have one person in custody. It is not clear what the connection was here, but the White House is on lockdown. We can tell you the President Trump, and First Lady are not here at the White House. They left for Florida for the Thanksgiving holiday yesterday. Still a very active scene down there in downtown D.C. on this Thanksgiving Eve. President Trump writing on Truth Social just a few minutes ago that whoever did this will pay a steep price. We know at the height there were about 2,000 National Guard members here in the district from all over the country. Here's President Trump's post right now on social media. He's saying the animal that shot the 2 National Guardsmen, with both being critically wounded, are now in 2 separate hospitals, is also severely wounded, but regardless will pay a very steep price. God bless our great National Guard and all of our military and law enforcement. These are truly great people. I, as the President of the United States, and everyone associated with the office of the presidency, am with you. And again, Yemisi, we know that a lot of these Guards members have come from all over the country, many of them young men and women away from home. They signed up to protect and serve, and so far, for the months that they have been in D.C., they have been on the National Mall, they have been in neighborhoods, they have been inside metro stops, and so far it has been without incident. And today, the day before Thanksgiving, it is really hard to fathom that something like this has happened. Your heart truly breaks for their families to watch all of this unfold. Again, we're learning their condition is critical at this hour. We don't know their identities, where they were from, but my goodness.
Yeah, and you think about these National Guard that came here, and they really didn't have an end date. Yeah. We know that it kept getting extended, and Mayor Muriel Bowser was working with the president and the White House on the timing of National Guard and how long they would stay. And finally, they're told that they're going to be fully pulled out of D.C., and this happens. I mean, it really is something just completely tragic to a lot of folks that left their families and came here not knowing what the future might hold for them.
And we were hearing December 11th was the date that they would be, released. We know the numbers have been dwindling again from that high point, about 2,000. But if you've spent any time in the district over the last few months, you have seen them typically with a smile on their face, greeting people as they walk into the metro, giving directions, helping clean up trash from the streets of D.C., literally picking up trash, mulching, just making D.C. more beautiful. And so to have this happen, truly tragic situation. But again, the White House is on lockdown. You see police presence from all over the district here gathered in the area of 16th, 17th, and I on Connecticut. Just a block from the White House, you have the Metropolitan Police Department. They are getting ready for a media staging scene over on K Street. So we're hoping to bring you any statements they have in regards to the investigation and the very latest details on that. You also see FBI, ATF, Secret Service, all in the area. Again, one of the most protected and surveilled areas in the entire country, if not the entire world.
And as we know from that interview with the tourist, I mean, a lot of families visiting folks that live here, a lot of people who just choose to come here during the holiday time as well. It's a high traffic area just for tourists walking about. And I'm sure a lot of people at that exact same moment were standing in Lafayette Park, looking at the White House, and then this happens. I mean, it really is something tragic to happen in the city at this time.
And when we looked at Bob's camera at Lafayette Park in front of the White House, it seemed so calm. You saw so many pedestrians there, as there are 365 days of the year, standing in front of the White House. You always have protesters standing there. You always have somebody playing music there. And so that scene to me was so jarring in the difference that we see literally 1 block away, with so many law enforcement gathering here, collecting evidence, combing through so much surveillance video that is going to be in that area. You see, officers obviously all have body cameras.
Right.
And we're just getting this now into the newsroom that we can report 2 people are confirmed to have died in this situation. It is not... Two West Virginia National Guard members. Excuse me. This is hard. 2 West Virginia National Guards members have been confirmed dead in this tragic situation just a block away from the White House on this Thanksgiving Eve. They were away from home. Again, this information is just now coming into the newsroom. Again, these were young men and women who signed up to protect and serve, typically in their backyards, and they were sent to D.C. in this unprecedented move to help guard the nation's capital, help make the nation's capital safer. We know with their presence, just their mere presence,
made
crime
people feel safer.
Yeah, it has
made
made people feel safer. You have seen them smiling at you in the subway stations. You have seen them walking in the National Mall. So this truly is just unfathomable to be coming into the newsroom right now. I want to bring back Rich Giordano. Rich, again, now we are just confirming that 2 Guards members from West Virginia are confirmed dead in this tragic incident here, again, just a block from the White House.
It's awful news. It's awful. And remember this, their families are back home and they don't know who it is necessarily. Notifications probably haven't been able to be made when it's rapidly unfolding. And law enforcement has to be 100% correct that it is who they think it is. So we got to keep them and their families in our thoughts and prayers. I will tell you this, that you guys are in a better position than me because I can't reach out to my sources there because I'm with you. But you should get a National Guard expert on here to tell us what the rules of engagement are in D.C. because sometimes they're different for the National Guard when you're in a civilian situation, meaning what are the rules for weapons? Can they carry firearms? Can they carry long guns, just handguns? Are they, there's a lot of rules that impact on this situation. Fortunately, if the reporting is accurate, the person who did this is in custody. And, law enforcement and the National Guard, they wear uniforms every day. They do what they're going to do. And these people protest. They throw bottle rockets at them. And today it looks like an ambush. And you know what? When they call 911, guess what? The police go, the National Guard shows up. We do our jobs. And yet they condemn us. They say fry like pigs. You got these advocates who are more concerned about rights of defendants and criminals and will go after law enforcement. But the one thing is they do all this to law enforcement. And we're the only profession that turns around. And we respond with a 911. We don't care what color you are. We don't care what your religion is. We don't care your politics. We say, where's your emergency? And we go. And these National Guard men are not trained, but they're thrown into law enforcement positions when they're there to make a difference.
Absolutely. And we see that presence, that extreme law enforcement presence right now on the screen. I do want to read this statement from West Virginia Governor Patrick Morrisey. He just released this statement here in the last few minutes after we have learned that 2 National Guards members from West Virginia have been killed in this shooting. Governor Morrisey saying, Denise and I are devastated by the news that 2 members of the West Virginia National Guard were shot earlier today in Washington, D.C. According to reports, both members did not survive. We're in direct contact with our Guard and other officials and are working to obtain the most accurate information as quickly as possible. He goes on to say, our prayers are with these brave service members, their families, and the extraordinary men and women of our Guard who put themselves on the line every day. West Virginia stands united behind them. We will do everything in our power to support their families as they endure this unimaginable loss and will not rest until justice is served. If you're just now joining us as we head into the 4 o'clock hour, we can confirm that 2 Guard members from West Virginia were shot and killed just a mere block away from the White House on this Thanksgiving Eve. This happened in the 2 o'clock hour. We know 3 people in total were transported from the scene. We do not know the identity or the condition of that 3rd person, but D.C. police saying they do have a suspect in custody at this hour. It is not clear if this was a targeted shooting, if this was some sort of ambush. We know Guards members, National Guard members, have been on the streets of D.C. for months now at their peak, reaching about 2,000 members from all over the country, states all over the country sending their Guards members here. And we now know that these 2 who have tragically been killed were from West Virginia. I want to go back out live to Bob Barnard, who is outside the White House at this hour. Bob, what can you tell us?
Yeah, Homa, we just saw an MPD command vehicle just pass us here. I mean, the news is hitting folks hard because obviously these were 2 National Guardsmen who were not home for Thanksgiving, working the day before Thanksgiving here in our nation's capital. And we're starting to get reaction to the fact that these 2 Guardsmen, whether they were targeted or not, have been shot and killed here just a block, 2 blocks basically, away from the White House. And joining me is Rich and Mike. Rich is visiting for Thanksgiving from Michigan. Mike, you live here. When I shared this news with you, what was your reaction, Rich?
It's sad, you know, that they're just doing their job. I don't know what happened, but yeah, it's pretty sad.
We don't know either. And Mike, you live here. Your thoughts as a D.C. resident, that these 2 Guardsmen away from their families for Thanksgiving, working on our streets, were either ambushed or somehow, I mean, you got to believe they were targeted if they were both shot and in uniform. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it just seems like tempers are flaring and things are getting to a boiling point. At some point, you know, it's got to stop.
I was telling our viewers we were earlier, Doug Wilkes, my photographer, and I, down by the Capital One Arena where there's a Caps game tonight. There was a large police presence. A car had lost control and smashed into a building. But there were uniformed National Guards people there helping to provide perimeter security at that scene. Have you seen them on the street? Have you had any interactions, either Rich while you're visiting or Mike since you do live here?
There hasn't been a lot, but once in a while you'll see one.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, and we work here, haven't seen much of them. It seems to have been ratcheted down, but they're still here. Again, Rich, you know, you're here for fun for Thanksgiving, and you see and walk into something like this.
I don't really know how to react without knowing any details because, like I said, you just don't know. You know, I don't want to give an opinion that's wrong, you know, so yeah, that's how I would feel about that.
Rich, Mike, thank you. Happy Thanksgiving to you guys. And just take a look here. I mean, you see these uniformed Secret Service, heavily armed Secret Service officers here in Lafayette Square because the White House is currently on lockdown, even though the president and First Lady are down in Palm Beach for Thanksgiving. I mean, there were tourists here at Lafayette Square, up along the gate, the fencing around the White House there on Pennsylvania Avenue. But now everybody is pushed back out here to H Street. And I want to pan to the right as we see people going down the sidewalk here. This is the next intersection is Connecticut Avenue, and then 17th Street is the next. This is H, 1 block to the north. To the right would be I Street. But normally there would be cars cruising up and down Homa here along H Street near the White House. And it is open to pedestrians, at least up until Connecticut. But just a shocking turn of events here. I mean, a shooting, and now going from critically wounded to 2 West Virginia National Guardsmen shot and killed on the streets of D.C., which were in kind of a pre-Thanksgiving mood today. We've been down here all day, earlier covering an event at the convention center with Mayor Bowser, who was in a very light mood because she had announced yesterday she would not be seeking a 4th term. And as we were talking with Guy Lambert earlier after her news conference with reporters, we hadn't seen her in that kind of a light, weight off my shoulders kind of aura in some time. And here, just like an hour later, this happens. So just sadly, a dark pre-Thanksgiving here in our nation's capital. And again, you have 2 West Virginia National Guardsmen. We don't know if it's 2 men, 2 women, man, woman. The ones I saw down at 7th Street near Capital One Arena at that car accident, it was a man and a woman in their fatigues, National Guardsmen. They were here doing a job, and it's just hard to believe. And we'll get more reaction. I mean, I saw Rich and Mike walking by, and when I told them what happened, they were visibly shaken. But as you heard Rich from Michigan saying, what was it all about? We don't know the details, unfortunately.
And Bob, those details are coming in very slowly at this hour, but we'll check back in with you in just a little bit. Thank you so much, Bob Barnard, live for us in front of the White House. And just to catch you up, if you're just now joining us, the governor of West Virginia confirming that the 2 Guards members from West Virginia have been shot and killed here on the streets of D.C. Let's go back out live to Julie Donaldson, who is on the scene there near 16th and I. Julie?
Hey, Homa. When that news came out that these 2 Guardsmen did not survive this, you could just really feel a heaviness here. I mean, there is a very heavy presence of media lining the entire way down 16th Street, even down to 17th. That news, people grasping the severity of what happened here today, and right as you're talking about on the holidays as well. Now, I reached out to the mayor's office and just happened to see a spokesperson that was walking by, and I said, where is the mayor? They said she is here in D.C. for the holidays, so she is in town, and she is currently being briefed on everything that happened here today. As they do get more information, we can expect a press conference from her. We can expect more information coming out as she is currently gathering it herself. But as this remains a very active scene, again, as we were down a block further on 17th Street, and not too long ago, they pushed all the media members back to 16th Street because they wanted to expand this investigation. There's been a lot of talks on how many people were injured. Of course, now we do know that 2 Guardsmen were shot as we do wait more information. But that is all the same information that Mayor Muriel Bowser is getting right now as well. And again, we can expect more information from her office as she gathers and puts that together. I was talking to some National Guardsmen as they were looking into expanding into different districts, and different wards had the opportunity to say, yes, we want these National Guardsmen to come into our neighborhoods for the beautification, to help clean it up, to also just have their presence in order to make the streets safer. A lot of wards selected to have their presence come in. Some said they didn't think that it was anything that was going to do long-term good. They thought their presence there, while it might deter crime for the moment, was more just a Band-Aid. And the second that they would leave their neighborhoods and leave their wards, that the crime would pick up. But when you're talking to the National Guardsmen, and he said a lot of the National Guardsmen, I know the 2 that were shot, not from here, they're from this area. A lot of them took pride in the work that they were doing as well. But today, all of them will have a heavy heart as things unfolded here as well, Homa.
Okay, what am I doing?
Much, and we're going to continue our breaking news coverage into 2 West Virginia Guards members killed on the streets of D.C. as the 4 o'clock begins right now. I'll toss it over to Kenneth and Angie. And Yemisi, at this point, we're just getting this information in that these were 2 West Virginia Guards members. Again, they were not home for Thanksgiving. They were here serving on the streets of D.C. We don't know yet if this was an ambush, if this was a planned attack, but the president saying that the shooter was also badly injured. We know 3 people were taken from that scene, so we're still waiting to get those details. We know MPD right now is setting up for a press conference, but we'll head over to the 4 o'clock news and continue our breaking coverage. Guys.
Thank you, Homa. Just incredible coverage there. And our continuing coverage here does begin in the 4 o'clock hour after these 2 National Guardsmen targeted outside of the White House, shot and killed. We are following the latest developments here.
Yeah, first we want to go straight to the streets where Nana Sinyabonsu is standing by. She is at Farragut Park right now. This is near where the incident happened, where the shooting happened at 17th and I, near Farragut Square. And this is also where we understand, Nana, we are expecting a briefing from officials, and this is the media staging area, and that should happen momentarily, we're told.
Hey, Homa, yes, correct. We're told this media briefing can happen anytime soon, but we've just been told to come to this block of 17 and I, again, right by Farragut Square. This is a very large scene. If you can see on the other side of this park is a little closer to where we are told the 2 National Guard members that we now know have passed were shot. You have a lot of tourists here. You have people who live in the area. I was able to speak to a number who said, you know, they actually saw Guard members as we've been covering. These National Guard members have been here for months, helping with the crime in the district. You see them in groups. You see them walking. One tourist said she was having a drink at a cafe. She saw a couple of them, and that's when she heard the shots, but she can't really piece together what took place. All she heard briefly after was sirens, and then an ambulance came. She did say she saw them lift someone and put them on the gurney, but can't confirm who it was. A lot happening, a lot of witnesses. We spoke to one man who's in town from South Carolina about what he saw moments after he saw an ambulance pull up. Take a listen. Okay, so go ahead. So talk to me about what you saw when you got here.
When I arrived, there were still police cars coming in from all directions, and the ambulance was across the street. I saw the people take the gurney from the ambulance, go down the street, and in about 10 minutes they came back, and there was a body on that, and I don't know if it was alive or what, but put it in the ambulance, and they drove down the street, and that was it. And since then, it's been massive reporters everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, I have to ask you, and if you can speak up just a little bit, what goes through your mind when you hear that at least 2 National Guard members were shot right here in the nation's capital?
Oh, my. Shooting anywhere is terrible, and shooting National Guard is also terrible. It's unfortunate that they're here, to be truthful with you, and that's maybe part of the problem. But still, not good, not admissible shootings.
And that was just an account of one of many witnesses that are here. A very, 1 second, I believe we're getting an update from police. I see there are putting stands up. I think they were just asking us to stay behind the caution tape. I wanted to give you guys a sense of where we are and where the White House is. This is just about 2 blocks away from the White House. Past the Tate to the left is where the White House is, closer to H Street. So just to kind of give you an idea of the proximity. Okay, police are asking us, to stay on the other side of the caution tape, which we are doing. I just believe some other reporters are getting on the other side. Again, a lot happening here, but we're expecting that update and that briefing. No worries. And as soon as we have it, we'll take it for you right here live. But again, what we can confirm, 2 National Guard members from West Virginia shot and killed here at the nation's capital just a day before Thanksgiving. As soon as we have updates, we'll have it for you. Home and Kenneth.
All right, Nana, thank you so much. And just to reset for our viewers here who are joining us here in the 4 o'clock hour on Fox 5, those shots fired outside the White House in the 2 o'clock hour, 2 National Guards members were hit. Since then, they have been confirmed dead. They were in critical condition when they were rushed to nearby hospitals. We know from the response from President Trump, they were in 2 separate hospitals as there were life-saving measures there. But unfortunately, we've learned that they have been killed. We are hearing from the president. We're hearing from Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem at this hour. The White House currently on lockdown, heavy security in that area around the White House.
Yeah, we know, as you mentioned, Kenneth, that the president has released a statement. He has been briefed on this. Mayor Muriel Bowser also briefed on this shooting that took 2 lives of our National Guardsmen from West Virginia. 17th and I in Farragut Square, that remains shut down. The West Virginia governor also weighing in and confirming that this has been a tremendous loss for his state.
I'm sorry, Angie. We just got word there were conflicting reports from the West Virginia governor about the conditions of these National Guardsmen who we've been reporting are dead. I'm going to read this to you right now from Governor Patrick Morrisey there in West Virginia. We are now receiving conflicting reports about the condition of our 2 Guard members and will provide additional updates once we receive more complete information. Our prayers are with these brave service members, their families, and the entire Guard community. With this incident happening, less than 2 hours ago, Angie, this is no surprise that we are getting conflicting reports at this point. But when that social media post came out from the governor that these National Guard troops were indeed killed, obviously that is a credible source for us, and that is what we reported. But now we're hearing the governor say there's conflicting reports.
And just to give you some context, when we have breaking news like this, and one that involves so many different officials, so many different agencies, I know alone, just to begin, we're talking D.C. Police, National Guard, we saw the ATF, Federal Protective Services, we have their local authorities for the Guardsmen and where they're from. They're all coordinating this, and we are doing our best as is everybody, and not jumping ahead of the facts, not jumping ahead of conclusions here, just relying on our sources and the official ones at that. What we do know, though, is that as of right now, you mentioned the White House is on lockdown, but they don't believe that there is an imminent threat out there to the public. But with any investigation like this, especially one that involves members of our U.S. military, this is going to be a huge investigation where they're going to have to set the perimeter, canvass the scene. It's going to take a lot of time, and that's why you see such a huge volume of officer presence here. And we still will not have a timetable, probably for a long time, as far as when everything will open up. But the suspect, we are told, was wounded and is in custody.
Is in custody. The president, putting on social media the animal that shot the two National Guardsmen, with both being critically wounded and now in two separate hospitals, is also severely wounded, but regardless will pay a very steep price. We have no information, no details about this suspect. We've heard some information about this person. This gunman had been in a hoodie on this 70-degree day here in Washington. Obviously, the day before Thanksgiving, there are a number of people always around the White House and near the White House. But at this point, no information about that suspect or any motives, any political motives at this point. But as you see, that's a live scene there in Northwest D.C., a large, not only police presence, but a number of federal agencies are on the ground there. And this is common and typical in these types of situations where, again, the White House is locked down, but the White House will be locked down on something pretty simple, just any potential threat. Obviously, there's a major threat here, which is why you have the White House locked down. And the president and the first lady are currently in Florida, so they're not even there, but this is still normal to have this type of security presence there. We want to get to our Josh Rosenthal, who's on this scene as well. We have a number of reporters there. Josh, where are you and what are you seeing?
Kenneth, Angie, I'm standing just in front of the intersection of 16th and I. That's what's there behind me. And the reason that we're standing this far back from the police tape is because I want to give you this wide angle to show you just how expansive this crime scene is. We're standing on I Street. So that first intersection you see here is 16th. The one just after it, that's I and 17th. That is where we believe that these shootings took place. And as you can see, it is emergency vehicles and chaos at this point, from our vantage point, pretty much as far as the eye could see. Now, if you follow me up this direction, Joaquin Neto doing a really great job here walking with me. We are now approaching the intersection of 16th and I, and to give you a better idea of where exactly this is down here, Neto, if you could turn in my direction, right down there, only a block or two, that's the White House, which, as you guys were saying earlier, is on lockdown. One thing about this, what appears to be a tragedy happening in this area, especially this time, right before Thanksgiving, you have a lot of people, tourists, walking all throughout here. We just spoke with a couple of people who said they were from Virginia, a little further out. They came here to D.C., they said, just to spend a nice night in the city ahead of the holidays, and they just so happened to walk by this crime scene and this apparent tragedy. They said they were devastated to see this, and person after person has said, in particular, this is tough to see and learn about just ahead of the holidays. Take a look over here in this direction, back to where we came from. You can see police vehicles, in some cases, still pulling up. That's D.C. police right there. If you keep going to your left, Neto, another police vehicle. And so, as this information trickles out, guys, about what exactly happened here, and the condition of various people involved, it is important to remember this is still very much an active crime scene. That police vehicle right there just had to tell people to get out of its way, and it sped down towards the White House. And right now, this is very much the scene. Here, if you look back in this direction, Neto, you can see these are just normal drivers, it would appear, who either parked there or driving by the area. They are trying to navigate this just as we are, just as tourists on foot are, and just as police are. So come on back here for 1 second with me. I'm going to see if we can talk to some of these people who are standing by. Excuse me, I'm sorry to bother you. It's okay, I understand some folks not wanting to go on live TV. That's okay, that's okay. Just trying to get a sense for you guys at the reaction among people. I'm sorry to bother you. Could I ask you real quick, ma'am? Let's try this one. Come over here. I'm terribly sorry to bother you. I'm Josh. Can I just ask you what you think of all this happening? It looks like you were just passing by.
Yeah, I'm actually on a call. Can you?
That's okay. No worries. As you guys can see, very much a fluid situation here. A lot of people passing by over here in this direction. Families passing by, just trying to figure out, like we are, like police are, what exactly is taking place. For now, I'm going to send it back to you.
All right, Josh, thank you there. I know people are just coming out because they want to see that scene, try to figure out what's going on, but also just go about their day. Bob Barner is also very close to the scene. I think you're near Lafayette Park. Let's bring in our Bob Barner to see what he's got. Hey, Bob.
Hey there, Kenneth and Angie. Yeah, it's fairly quiet here, and anybody who on this day before Thanksgiving, visiting friends, family, or just as a complete family from out of town would have hoped to have been right up alongside the White House gates on Pennsylvania Avenue. Unfortunately, they're kept here. This is at the far northern perimeter of Lafayette Square, right along H Street. And you see a lot of protesters here, and some people have been kind of jawing at each other. And the heavily armed Secret Service uniformed police are maintaining a perimeter. There is police tape here at kind of the main walkway, which would extend south along 16th Street straight down to the front of the White House down there on Pennsylvania Avenue. But the heavily armed uniformed Secret Service police have been here since we arrived here about an hour ago. They are maintaining the perimeter because the White House is on lockdown. So you got to believe there are a lot of people in the White House complex who are hoping to get out maybe a little bit earlier today because it is the day before Thanksgiving, and they're being held in. Nobody's allowed to advance toward the White House. So you see, not many people here. I mean, there's, the pro-Palestinian, release the Epstein files, anti-Trump protesters, but they've been quiet as they realize what's going on here, that the White House is on lockdown, Lafayette Square is closed, a number of the streets in the area are closed as well. And I'm going to have Doug Wilkes pan to the right here in a second and just show you we're on H Street. So some cars are coming this way that are being turned away from the blocked road down there. The next street west of us, where they're turning from, is Connecticut Avenue. The street beyond that, where you see the flashing lights, that would be 17th Street at H. The incident is to the right, 1 block north at 17th and I is where this shooting happened. So pedestrians are able to get as far as Connecticut Avenue, but cars are being kept several blocks away from where we are. Some are able to leave this area, those that were in parking garages here or on the curb, but no vehicular traffic is allowed into this area. Again, you can see some pedestrians, but it's a wide perimeter still around this scene. And as Josh was doing moments ago, we've talked to people as we've been sharing this news, now conflicting news about the conditions of the 2 West Virginia National Guards men, women, we're not sure genders, but who were shot this afternoon, literally just 3 blocks from the White House, slightly north and west of the White House. For what reason, we don't know. You would almost believe if 2 of them were shot, they had to have been targeted in some way, but we don't know. And the gunman who allegedly shot at them, according to our law enforcement sources and even the president's tweet, has been wounded and is at the hospital as well. So it's just an odd scene here. Again, as I come back to the fact that you have a lot of people who are down here for the holiday and wanted to kind of take a look at the White House, and what they're finding is a major crime scene.
I think during your last hit or so, you were talking to and delivering the news that we thought that these guardsmen had been killed. Again, conflicting reports at this point. The governor of West Virginia saying, hold up on that after he confirmed that both members were killed. But now he's saying that there are conflicting reports about the conditions of these 2 guard members. Are you hearing any reaction from the people on the street about these conflicting reports?
Yeah, I think what the most the questions I'm getting from folks are what literally happened. Hi, folks, how you doing? Hi, where are you visiting from?
Guatemala?
Guatemala. Did you hear what happened down the street here?
No.
But you know the White House grounds are closed.
Yes.
2 National Guardsmen. I don't know if in your visit here you've seen National Guard troops on the street. 2 of them have been shot just down the street. We don't know their conditions.
Wow.
What's your reaction to that? We don't know the scenario that led to them being shot, but there's a chance they didn't make it, but we're not 100% sure.
Well, that's sad. I mean, especially around the holidays. I'm pretty sure they have family, and I don't think that's good. It's scary.
Yeah, have you felt like, did you know what was going on? Like that something was going on?
We just heard. We was wondering what was going on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. By the demeanor of some folks, some were dancing and making videos. They didn't have any idea what was going on or didn't even ask. But it does seem fairly subdued here. And as you learn this, these were most certainly residents of another state who were away from their families here for Thanksgiving.
Yes. That's sad. I guess we just got to pray for them so they can survive.
We hope. Thank you very much, ma'am. Have a happy Thanksgiving. All right, guys, that's the latest here from just outside Lafayette Square, the White House remaining on lockdown at this hour.
Okay. Bob, thank you so much for that. Part of our boots on the ground there fanned out across the scene where this terrible shooting happened. We now want to go to Rich Giordano. He is a law enforcement expert, former prosecutor, joining us today as these details start to leak out. We're still piecing all of this together, just like everybody else. What can you tell us as far as what this variety of law enforcement agencies that are working together, what they're doing at this point as they try to figure out what led up to this moment?
There's a multitude of agencies working together, but they're collecting evidence at the scene. They probably have evidence tech there looking for firearm that may or may not have been used, looking for backpacks, looking for ammo or shells that were discharged. It's still unfolding rapidly. Let's hope and pray that these individuals are still alive and it was just misinformation we all received. I think it's really interesting. Bob was just on, and I think to just to pose, he said, have a happy Thanksgiving. And that's what today should be about. People heading home for Thanksgiving. This is brutally unfair when these unfold, especially to the guardsmen in West Virginia and their families. Their families are probably struggling to figure out who got shot. Are they alive? Are they not? But they probably haven't been able to identify or notify families, and especially with the conflicting reports. This is supposed to be a joyous time. The families were preparing for their guardsmen to come home shortly. They were told they were going to start sending them home. Instead, they may be preparing for long-term medical, or they may be preparing for funerals. I hope not. But I will tell you, from listening to what I've seen from all your witnesses so far, it was very quickly over. Rapidly over. Wendy, who was on last hour, said that the person had a hoodie on. Leading me to believe that this may have very well been a targeted assassination or attempt, because a hoodie on, they didn't expect it. I think you should have somebody, some boots, your reporters, speak to some National Guard, find out what the rules of engagement are, because sometimes when they're dealing with the civilians, they're not allowed to have certain firearms. They're not allowed to engage unless certain things occur. And I just don't have that expertise, but I think that it makes a difference. But I just want to say that listening to this unfold, we got to hit the pause, because so much is happening. When they have the press conference, we'll get more information. But remember, that's still preliminary. And I just want to say this. Remember, our National Guard in this country, we refer to them as weekend warriors. They get deployed for battles. They get deployed for war zones. But they're kids. A lot of them are 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds. They could work at a Walmart or a grocery store, and then they're deployed. And if you're used to your training once a month, and you're used to your summer training, or to going overseas and guarding our facilities, I think to be tossed into cities to perform a law enforcement function adds stress to them and puts them in a more vulnerable spot. They're all heroes in my book, and I say, just remember, I hope it's not, but these could be young people. And I hope that they are not fatally injured, as was told to us in the past.
Yeah, we pray that it's not the case and that they are still with us. I do want to ask, and there's a future discussion to be had here about the National Guard troops who are in D.C., this deployment being in U.S. cities, because typically we see the National Guard helping when there's a natural disaster, when there are other things that happen, but not pretty much for law enforcement. And I will say the National Guard troops that we've seen here in the district the past few weeks especially, there have been beautification projects. There have been more crime deterrents than actually doing law enforcement duties because that was not their mandate during the Trump D.C. takeover and the subsequent period that we've seen after the crime emergency is over. But I want to move back to this investigation, the number of agencies, Rich, that we're seeing there on that scene. We've seen these types of incidents before. We've seen mass casualty incidents. We've seen incidents where the FBI is taking the lead. Who is the lead at this point after this incident?
It's probably going to be the federal government because these were National Guardsmen. What is going to happen is they're going to get all kinds of street cameras. They're going to get store cameras. They're going to get everything they can together, piece this together, and identify. Well, they're going to know who the person is if they're in custody, but they're going to identify what steps did he take. Did he come from the transit system? Did he come from a building? Was it an ambush in front and back? There are so many cameras that we have in major cities that this will be one of the major pieces to put this back together. When they do get the person, they're going to go through their phone. They're going to go through their computers. They're going to get a warrant for their house. They'll be executing a search warrant on this house if they've identified the individual by 8 o'clock tonight is my bet. And right now they probably have law enforcement guarding the houses or the possible house of where this individual lives so that nobody can get in and tamper with anything. They'll then do forensics on that. They'll use the AI to locate and track where this person may have come from. We've seen all kinds of bizarre incidents. We don't know. Unfortunately, there's so much heated rhetoric that comes across today. You don't know if these National Guardsmen were particularly targeted, or they interrupted a robbery, or they interrupted the individual with a firearm. I will tell you this. I have been with Fox News in Chicago, Los Angeles, and with you people in D.C., and everyone that interviews people on the street, they're happy to see another uniform and boots on the street, even if it's the National Guard. It's another uniformed personnel that gives them more of a sense of calm and peace and deterrence for the criminals when they see law enforcement around. One thing about law enforcement and the National Guard, and I have to tell you this, they condemn the police, they shoot bottle rockets at us, they call us, fry them up like bacon pigs, they ambush people, but they call 911 and the first thing law enforcement says to the dispatchers is, where's your emergency, what do you need? We don't care what your race is.
And Rich, I'm sorry to cut you off. I know you got to go soon, so I want to get this. Can you briefly answer this? Because this is a major thing that just happened, which was conflicting reports that said that the Guardsmen were dead. And then now people are probably wondering who watching this, how could something like that happen? We know that this happened 2.5 hours ago or so, and that information is coming fast and furious, but typically we wait for law enforcement to step up to the mics and confirm. So how could something like this happen?
Well, how it happens is you got EMTs, you got other law enforcement in there, you got medical personnel. Somebody says, doesn't look good, they're not going to make it. And by the time it gets to the front door, it's that they're dead. So it's like the kid when we were when we were kids. There's a game where you start with one person, go around a room, and it's end. And so there's so much information, and there's such a rush to try to get the information out to the public so they know what's going on. And that's how those mistakes happen. I said earlier, let's hit the pause when we were talking in the segment, the 3 o'clock hour. Yeah. Let's hit the pause and get more information. But there's a race to try to get as much information so people are aware if this is a one-off incident or if there's more fear. But that's how those things happen. They hear somebody in the ambulance says it doesn't look good, and then somebody overhears it, and it just gets turned into they're not going to make it.
Right, and this is why we will wait and make sure that we have the correct information before we report it out. But again, that was coming from Governor Patrick Morrisey. But as soon as he sent out that correcting tweet, we reported that. So, Rich, we know you got to go. Thank you for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. And I pray for these people and their families. And I ask everyone else to do the same.
Definitely.
They're not down there to get ambushed and shot, and hopefully they don't die. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, of course. We're praying that they're okay.
All right. Thank you so much, Rich, for all of that insight. We'll be checking back in with you. But meantime, we want to head back out to Julie Donaldson. She's joining us from 16th and I Street. This is near the scene where this tragic shooting unfolded. At this point, can you confirm anything about these two National Guardsmen? Anything new that you've come across?
Yeah, no, Angie, it's still a lot of information that's being gathered. And from a lot of people that I talked to when I first got here at 3 o'clock on the scene, they're saying it took place. They heard shots fired, like a boom, 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 like fireworks kind of going off around 2:15. And since then, there have been mixed reports from what people have heard. 2 shots. I've heard some people say that they heard 3 shots. But at the time when they did hear it, it was chaos. People running scared in all directions trying to get away from what they do was a very dangerous scene. And since then, the police, they say, responded quickly. And this has been locked down. When we first got here, we were able to get up to 17th Street. But it wasn't long after that the police wanted to be able to expand their active scene, active search, be able to push all the media back. And there's dozens of media here. And on top of that, there's a lot of people. This is the holidays. People are in Washington, D.C., visiting with family, coming up here to see the sights and the sounds. There's been a lot of pedestrian traffic. They pushed us quickly back to 16th Street. So that's where we are right now, 16th and I. The information, again, that we are getting from those that saw and heard what happened is mixed. And, of course, we really want to wait until we get the information, which will be at a press conference the police are holding. I am told the mayor will be there as well, that she was being briefed on all of this. That's going to be happening over where Nana is. So as soon as we do have that, we know Nana will bring that information. But let us hear some of the sound of a woman who was there when this all took place. And from her account, what happened here?
I was in the Uber. I heard right in front of 17th Street, and I heard boom, boom 2 times. And then the Uber driver said, "Why are all these people running?" So then I look out the window, and it's little children, adults running, children on both sides of the street, running in the opposite direction. The supervision is saying to the children, "Go, go, run." And then I heard, "Help, help."
So it was very chaotic, as she said early on, but with the police coming in, here quickly and locking everything down, they said they've had the area very safe, very controlled off, very pushed back here. But what we're having right now is a lot of people that are leaving work, trying to get to their cars, trying to get out of the area that we're here just for what their normal day was before they go off on holiday of Thanksgiving tomorrow. So right now, everybody's just really kind of standing around waiting to get the information from one to the next, which, as they're doing this active investigations. You can kind of see here behind me, when we first came up, there was nothing but police cars flashing lights down this entire street on both sides. It looks like it's died down a little bit, but obviously still down the street, a very, very heavy presence as this investigation continues to be very active right now.
All right, Julia, thank you so much. And I do want to say that Pete Hegseth, the Department of Defense Secretary, has just made a statement on camera. He posted that on Twitter about 11 minutes ago. We are working to turn that around for you, and we will play that out as soon as we get it. But again, we're getting responses from many top officials in the Trump administration. We have heard from the president, who posted on social media calling the gunman an animal, saying, quote, "The animal that shot the 2 National Guardsmen, with both being critically wounded and now in 2 separate hospitals, also severely wounded, but regardless will pay a very steep price. God bless our great National Guard and all of our military and law enforcement. These are truly great people." As the president of the United States, the president goes on. But again, the president has been briefed on the situation.
We want to go now to that video that was just posted online by Secretary of War Pete Hegseth.
Very productive meetings, but I want to start by saying after those meetings, myself and my team were notified that 2 National Guardsmen have been shot in Washington, D.C., critically wounded. The shooter shot in a cowardly, dastardly act targeting the best of America. Heroes willing to serve in Washington, D.C., serve for people they don't know and they've never met. because they love their country and their capital and their community. They were willing to do dangerous things others were not because they love their fellow Americans. Someone decided to turn that into targeting National Guardsmen. That will only stiffen our resolve. We will never back down. We will secure our capital. We will secure our cities. In fact, this happened just steps away from the White House. It will not stand. And that's why President Trump has asked me, and I will ask the Secretary of the Army, to the National Guard, to add 500 additional troops, National Guardsmen, to Washington, D.C. This will only stiffen our resolve to ensure that we make Washington, D.C. safe and beautiful. The drop in crime has been historic. The increase in safety and security has been historic. But if criminals want to conduct things like this, violence against America's best, we will never back down. President Trump will never back down. That's why the American people elected him. America and our warriors, our National Guardsmen, are strong. And so we're following this very closely. We're getting information rapidly. I mentioned the faith of this country, the Christian faith, the prayers. I would ask for prayers for our National Guardsmen.
Excuse me, Mr. P.
Appeals to heaven for our National Guardsmen, for their families, on bended knee as a War Department, as a nation.
Excuse me.
We will never back down.
Excuse me.
Think about them right now.
Venezuela.
We had a couple of great, productive meetings with the President and Minister of Defense here, where we are dedicated to the counter-cartel effort here. Criminality knows no boundaries, whether it's the United States of America and Washington, D.C., or it's the Caribbean
that's obviously Pete Hegseth at the Department of Defense at the Pentagon there. Moving on to another topic of national interest there, but addressing these two National Guardsmen shot in Northwest D.C. near the White House, and giving us a few extra details, a few new details there, including we were wondering whether these guardsmen were targeted. He used the phrase and said they were targeted. The shooting that targeting National Guardsmen. He also added that he will ask the president to add 500 additional National Guard troops on the ground in the district. And obviously, we've been reporting for the past week or so that a judge had ruled that the deployment of these troops was illegal by the president.
Yeah, I think it goes without saying, anybody who's been following this since the National Guard arrived here in Washington, D.C. during this takeover back in August, that this activation has not gone without controversy. And the big question also coming out of all of this, which was partially just answered, at least to an immediate response, who knows what will be added onto that afterwards, but is how is this going to change the landscape of this federal surge here in our nation's capital? When you look at the numbers, I think the estimate was like 2,190 National Guard members currently in the district right now. A lot of them from this area, but as we have seen, other states as well. We've talked a little bit about how these are not full-time soldiers, right? These are citizen soldiers. They have a whole nother life. They have a whole nother job, and it's only when they are called to action, called to serve, and in this case, serve the mission of the president and protecting not only the citizens, but the visitors of the city. They answer that call. And so as a result of that, we are now understand that we are going to see an influx. We are going to see
Well, he says that he will put in the request to the president. We don't know if that will be approved, and will the president also use this incident to reignite the crime emergency that has, since been ended months ago in D.C., but yet the National Guard troops remained, and that's been the Attorney General Brian Schwab in the district has fought that. The mayor has fought that. There has been city leaders who don't want the National Guard troops or don't think that they're needed, and that D.C. police alone can tackle any crime issues in the city. But we have seen a decrease in crime. The president, he noted, I think the other day before he took off for his holiday, that there hasn't been one murder in D.C. in the past 6 months. We know that is not the case. A little hyperbole from the president, perhaps there. But we know there has been a drop in crime. The mayor has noted that. Was it because of the D.C. police? Was it the influx of federal officers? We do know there has been a drop, and it has been because there has been more attention in some high crime areas, even though we could debate this and talk about how the fact that some of these troops were not in some of the most high crime areas, and some of the residents pointed that out. You see it on the screen right now. Janine Pirro has put out a statement saying, "God bless the 2 National Guardsmen who've been shot near the White House. As the U.S. Attorney for D.C., I stand ready, as does my office, to seek justice in this case. I am on my way to the scene now." Yeah,
the United States Attorney there offering her statement. I think it's important just to piggyback off what you said, Kenneth, quickly, is that National Guardsmen or Guard members, they are not brought here to engage in policing, right? I mean, there was even controversy when they first arrived that they weren't armed, and there was a call, well, maybe they should be armed, but not called to use it, but just in case. And in this case, we know that preliminary reports say that there was an engagement of gunfire between these 2 individuals and the suspect, who is in custody right now. But the current deployment, as we've said time and time again, have really been in this non-enforcement role. Now we want to go over to Julie Donaldson, check back in with her. She joins us she's close to the scene, I believe. I think they pushed you back, you said, to I and 16th.
Yeah, they did. We were over at 17th when we first got here at 3 o'clock, but they quickly said they wanted to expand their active search area and their investigation area, so they pushed all the media back down to 16th Street. So here we are at 16th and I. There's still a lot of course, media out here covering this. There's a lot of spectators that are walking around trying to just figure out what is going on. But we came across Michael. Michael was here at the time that this went down. Tell us, Michael, what time around was it, and what were you doing, and what did you hear?
Well, it was the afternoon, and I was walking to lunch, and it got to 17th and I Street, and we heard gunshots. So we ran about 4 or 5 storefronts down I Street. Then we kind of thought maybe it was construction. Then we heard another round of gunshots, probably like 10 seconds later, maybe even less. So we ran a little bit further. Then, after that, like a minute after that, a lot of people thought it was construction. So, like a lot of security people are out in the street. So I went back to get my lunch and witnessed they had one person pinned down and yelling at him to stay down. And then there were 2 National Guards on the ground. One, it looked like they were trying to resuscitate. And then there were a couple of National Guard that were hugging each other that were obviously very upset about what had happened.
What kind of emotions are you going through as you're witnessing this?
Well, I mean, there's a little bit of adrenaline and, at one point even disbelief, it was a little bit surreal. You see this stuff on TV, you don't expect to witness it yourself.
The man that they had pinned down, I wouldn't want to subject that it was a man, but the person that they had pinned down, do you know what they were wearing? Can you describe them at all?
Yeah, like I said, I took some photos. I'd have to zoom in. I do know that it looked like there were 2 people pinning him down. One man may have been a civilian. He was wearing a black hat and had a beard. And then it looked like there was another National Guard perhaps pinning him as well. And there was a lot of broken glass from the bus stop on the scene as well.
Broken glass bus stop. Why was there broken glass there?
I'm guessing from the gunshots, because it wasn't broken before that.
And you said there were 2 different rounds of it. Do you know about approximately how many shots did you hear?
I mean, it kind of sounded like 5 or 6 in each round. When we went back, we didn't think anything was going on because there was just 1 police car there.
How long before it became a heavier police presence?
It took like a couple more minutes for some more police to show up, and then probably about 5 minutes later, a rush of police came. That's when, the police were armed. That's when the EMTs showed up, and then they started to push us back from 17th and I Street across the street from.
Did you talk to any police on just kind of what you saw and what you witnessed at all here?
No, I mean, they had me go back inside my place of business. Didn't want to let us out for a little bit of time. So, we were in there for maybe an hour and a half or 2 before we were able to get out.
All right, they want to be cautious, put you in lockdown. Michael, thank you so much. I'm sorry you had to go through this, but we appreciate you sharing your perspective and what you saw here today.
Okay.
All right. Again, there's a lot of people that were working here that were trying to get their way out. There still are trying to clear cars out from this area. We have been pushed back to 16th. They're trying to make sure that the area does remain open, as it is a safe area at the moment, but they just want to remain open as they continue their investigation. Kenneth and Angie.
Right. Julie Donaldson for us tonight from 16th and I should say, about a block away from where this happened.
Just incredible details from that witness there. And obviously any witness statements or obviously this was somebody who saw the aftermath, but if anyone saw the actual gunman, the actual shooting, we hope that law enforcement obviously speaking with them now.
Yeah, well, and I think that that's why we're going to see that crime tape and that perimeter out there for quite some time, because we talked with Rich earlier, who was our law enforcement expert, in addition to just collecting the evidence and making sure that they are able to, recover maybe any type of weapon that was involved. Or it's also important to find people like this.
Yes.
We're looking for them as well, but more importantly, law enforcement, they want the eyes and ears of anybody who was within that vicinity. This guy, he thought it was construction, right? I mean, people heard, they saw things, and so that's going to be more important than ever in determining what are really the unanswered questions right now, which might take days, might take weeks, might take months or years. We might never know. But the motivation behind this, was this a targeted attack? Was it an ambush? These are all things that we're hearing. But again, we are stopping short of jumping to any type of conclusion.
And as you take a live look at GW Hospital there in Northwest, we see a police presence outside the hospital. We have not confirmed if a National Guard's member, if any of the shooting victims were taken to that hospital. We know President Trump said they were taken to 2 separate hospitals. This is the closest hospital to the scene, and we typically see police officers outside the emergency room because they handle all types of situations, but we've seen what appears to be a more increased police presence there outside the hospital.
Well, we also had reports, too, that the suspected gunman was injured and was hurt and wounded as well. So, I mean, that might be the case as well. Nonetheless, we are there. We are here. We are in a variety of different parts of this story, and we've got it covered, including with Bob Barnard, who joins us now from Lafayette Park. Bob, you've been talking to people all afternoon, and you've been covering the city for many, many years. Bob, just considering what has happened today and what we've gone through over the last few months, it's hard to say how this is going to impact this recent surge we've seen. What are you hearing there on the streets?
Well, I mean, people here are kind of stunned for sure, those that are hearing this news. But I think one of the responses we just heard from the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, that they're going to send 500 additional National Guardsmen and women to D.C. in the coming days and weeks. So I think a lot of people are impacted just in terms of trying to get home. On this Wednesday before Thanksgiving, we are at the far northwest corner of Lafayette Park. The White House is right here. We've come a block closer to the scene, and we're frankly as close as you can get now, because this is H Street looking down at 17th, and you see all the police there at the scene. I want Doug Wilkes to kind of just pan off to the left here to see not only is it police tape, but you've got heavily armed Secret Service uniformed police here blocking the sidewalks. They are maintaining the perimeter because the White House grounds, the property, the complex is still on lockdown. And now I want to kind of, as we pass over H Street, I want to kind of look north on Connecticut. So this is looking north on Connecticut, where you see those flashing lights. That's I Street. So the scene, you heard the other guys, Julie was at 16th and I. This is Connecticut and I, which is a block closer to 17th and I. And the scene is still obviously an active crime scene with a number of roadways blocked, but also some sidewalks blocked, because you've got people who work in this area. Some, we've seen just a few leaving the White House complex, but there are others who work in these buildings. As you see this vehicle passing here, and someone's going to let him go through this tape, or he's going to go past us. But one of the many people, and actually as he goes by, Doug, show these folks just sitting on the wall here. So you've got a lot of people who are hoping to get home because they're probably off the next couple of days to begin their Thanksgiving weekends, and they're stuck here. and one of them also is Brian. Brian, I saw you sitting on the wall earlier. Tell me your situation here.
I just got off work. I'm fortunate to be able to get home a little bit early, and unfortunately I'm parked in the middle of the crime scene, so kind of stranded at the moment.
Have they told you anything?
That maybe I'll be able to get my car out of the garage at some point tonight, but not exactly when.
All right, good luck, Brian. We want to send it back into you guys. Thank you.
Bob, thank you. We are awaiting that news conference there where we understand, as you see, Mayor Muriel Bowser, the FBI Director Kash Patel standing by. They are near the microphones now, and they are waiting for everyone to join in. We are hoping to learn a lot more information about exactly the details of what happened, the conditions of those National Guard members. Again, you see federal officials, the mayor, they're standing by.
Yeah.
We're here to brief you on the tragic events that happened today at approximately 2:15 local time in Washington, D.C., where two of our brave members of the National Guard and the Department of War were brazenly attacked in a horrendous act of violence. They were shot. They're in critical condition. As you can see behind me, we have assembled the full force of both the federal and state and local law enforcement agencies to bring bear all of our resources to make sure we find the perpetrators responsible for this heinous act. And make no mistake, they will be brought to justice. Since this is an assault on a federal law enforcement officer, this will be treated at the federal level as an assault on a federal law enforcement officer. The FBI will lead out on that mission with our interagency partners, to include the Department of Homeland Security, Secret Service, ATF, DEA. And we're thankful for the mayor's assistance in this matter, the Metropolitan Police Department and their skills in investigating homicides and gun shootings in this city is exceptional. We will work together collaboratively because this is a matter of national security, because this is a matter of pride. President Trump has been informed. We've been in contact with the White House. We will shortchange the American public with no resources to make sure we find and safeguard our nation's capital right here in Washington, D.C., and bring anyone responsible for this heinous act of violence to justice. I would lastly like to add to the American public and the world, please send your prayers to those brave warriors who are in critical condition and their families. They are here serving our country. They are here protecting everyday Americans and citizens around the world in our nation's capital. They are the heroes of this day, and we must remember them on this day and every day, and their families and the sacrifice they have made. I will now turn it over to Chief Carroll of the Metropolitan Police Department. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeff Carroll. I'm the Executive Assistant Chief here at the Metropolitan Police Department. At approximately 2:15 this afternoon, members of the D.C. National Guard were on high visibility patrols in the area of 17th and I Street Northwest when a suspect came around the corner, raised his arm with a firearm, and discharged it at the National Guard members. The National Guard members, there were other members that were in the area. They were able to, after some back and forth, able to subdue the individual and bring them into custody. Within moments, members of law enforcement in the area were also able to assist and bring that individual into custody. At this time, as the director mentioned, the National Guard members are being treated at a local hospital. DC Fire and EMS responded to the scene to provide first aid for those individuals and transport them to a local hospital. The suspect in this case was also transported for treatment at a local hospital. Madam Mayor?
Thank you. I'm Muriel Bowser. I'm the mayor of Washington, D.C., and I, too, want to send my thoughts and prayers to the families of the guardsmen and to the guardsmen who are in critical condition in a local hospital. I am joined by members and leadership from the D.C. National Guard, from the West Virginia National Guard, United States Secret Service, Deputy Mayor Pia, Fire Chief Donnelly, and Metro's General Manager Randy Clark. And we join with the FBI Director in ensuring that MPD investigates, the U.S. Attorney prosecutes this case to the fullest extent of the law. I've had the opportunity to brief U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi, who was speaking to the president when I called, as well as the United States Attorney Pirro, who assured me that this case will have her office's complete attention.
Mayor, was there any other suspect?
Chief?
Sure. So no, at this time, there was no indication that there was any other suspect. The one suspect that was involved in this incident, they were shot during the interaction, and they were transported to the hospital for treatment.
Mayor, does this validate the need for the National Guard here in D.C.?
What we know, Andrea, is that this is a targeted shooting. One individual who appeared to target these guardsmen, that individual has been taken into custody.
Mayor, can you tell us any more details on the condition of the two National Guardsmen and whether or not anyone else was injured? And a quick question follow-up for the FBI director. You said that we'll make sure we find the perpetrators for this act. So just to clarify, the person believed to be responsible is in custody and there are no other suspects.
Sure, so I can start out. Again, Chief Carroll from MPD. So both of the individuals, the guard members, they are in critical condition at a local hospital at this time being treated. At this point, we have no other suspects. We have reviewed video from the area. It appears, like I said, to be a lone gunman that raised a firearm and ambushed these members of the National Guard, and he was quickly taken into custody by other National Guard members and law enforcement members.
Have you got any sense of motive?
No, at this time, obviously, we're very in the preliminary stages of investigation. There's a lot of things, a lot of agents that are here from various federal agencies, law enforcement agencies. We have the full power of the FBI and our federal partners here, the task force. So we're looking at all those different aspects, but we don't have any motive.
Were the National Guardsmen armed, sir?
The National Guardsmen that were shot, I'm told they were armed.
Did they get all shot?
At this time, that's part of the preliminary investigation.
We know how the suspect was apprehended. Chief.
Sure. So how the suspect was apprehended, as I said, the individual, the suspect came around the corner. He immediately started firing a firearm at the two National Guard members. So at that time, there were other National Guard members that were in the area. They heard the gunfire. They actually were able to intervene and to kind of hold down the suspect after he had been shot on the ground until law enforcement got there within moments.
And he was shot by a National Guardsman?
At this point, we're still investigating exactly who shot the individual. It's not clear at this time.
Were there D.C. policemen in the area?
We don't know what kind of weapon. There was D.C. police. It happened right in front of the Metro, although there is no indication that the perpetrator was on the Metro. So there's Metro Transit Police in the area, and obviously being on 17th Street by the White House, Uniform Division of Secret Service were in the immediate area as well.
We're going to be able to take a couple more.
Have you been able to question the suspect, or is his condition so severe that you haven't been able to have a conversation?
Sure. Again, so as I said, we're very preliminary in the investigation, so we're looking into all aspects of who the individual is, his connections. At this time, he's still in the hospital receiving treatment.
And I would just like, I would just like to add, the reason that this suspect is in custody is because of the bravery of the men and women of the National Guard who responded. Due to their extensive training to secure American lives today, there was not any further injury and any further shooting. We should highlight the fact that the men and women of law enforcement, the interagency, the Department of War, and the National Guard executed their training with great precision today and prevented an even greater tragedy from befalling us. These National Guardsmen are heroes, and we must pray for their safety and their speedy recovery. And as the chief said, we are in the preliminary stages of this investigation. We will run down every single lead, every piece of evidence. This is the power of the U.S. government at its best at the state, local, and federal level. That is why this interagency group is standing behind us to assure America and the world that we will continue to keep D.C. safe. And thankfully, we have Metropolitan Police Department, the National Guardsmen, and federal agents, and the Department of Justice and Attorney General willing to prosecute the mission to keep Americans safe. And President Trump has rightly stated that this heinous act will be investigated, and he has thanked the National Guardsmen and women and the men and women of law enforcement.
Thank you.
Did the suspect say anything at the time? Why did the West Virginia governor say that they've been killed? Chief, was anyone else shot besides the two?
Have the families been notified?
General, what about the unconstitutional deployment of the troops? Why are there 500 more troops?
All right, we were just listening to FBI Director Mayor Bowser, the chief there from MPD, giving us an update on this horrific situation that has played out in the streets of D.C. We're getting some new information about these two guardsmen that were shot earlier today around 2 o'clock, just about a block from the White House. Today, we are learning, in fact, this was a targeted attack where the suspect apparently comes around the corner and starts shooting at the National Guard. Officers, other guardsmen get involved. They eventually pin that suspect to the ground. That suspect was injured. 2 of the National Guardsmen critically injured, rushed to local hospitals. And as we've been playing out for the last several hours now, a massive police presence that is unfolding on the streets of D.C. Also, we heard today from Kash Patel that this is going to be, of course, a federal case. The FBI taking the lead on this, as many agencies are now involved in this investigation.
And Mayor Bowser saying she has been in contact with Attorney General Pam Bondi, as well as U.S. D.C. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Jeanine Pirro, and that this person will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. We, again, want to reiterate, contrary to what was reported earlier by the governor of West Virginia, the 2 Guard members from West Virginia are in critical condition right now at local hospitals here in D.C. The shooter was also injured, was shot in the altercation of when he was getting pinned down. So again, we're hearing from FBI Director Kash Patel and Mayor Muriel Bowser, as well as MPD Chief, that the suspect came around the corner and seemed to target these 2 Guard members who were on high visibility patrol, as they have been doing for the last several months here in D.C. You have seen them all over the streets of D.C. At one point, their number as high as over 2,000. We know those numbers were going to start dwindling after December 11th. But this happening on Thanksgiving Eve. We know those 2 Guard members are from West Virginia. They were not home for the Thanksgiving holiday, right now in critical condition.
Yeah, let's get over to Nana St. Bozo. She was at the press conference that just wrapped just a moment ago. Nana, what are you hearing? What was kind of the takeaways for you today?
You know, there's still a lot of questions, but we did get a lot of clarification, especially on those 2 National Guard members. We know that they were taken to an area hospital and they're currently in critical condition. So we got that clarification. We're also learning more about the suspect. We're told that the National Guard members, they were kind of doing that high visibility patrol. If you're familiar with this area, the past couple of months, you see them walking in groups of 3, 4, sometimes 5 or 6. And then we're told the suspect comes around a corner with a weapon. We don't know what kind of weapon was used, and opened fire, basically striking 2 National Guard members. Now, because there's groups of these members, we're told at least one of them also pulled out their weapon, because we know that they are armed, and fired at the suspect, who was also taken to a nearby hospital. Just a lot that we're taking in right now. But again, I think the biggest thing that came from that is the condition of these National Guard members. Mayor Bowser was here. She said she had a chance to brief Attorney General Pam Bondi, who was actually speaking with the president at the time of her call. Right now, FBI Director Kash Patel was also here, and he made it clear that you can't do this, and the suspect or whoever else was involved, they will be held accountable to the highest extent of the law. A number of questions here. Was it targeted? Was there a bigger group? Do we know why this happened? The motive? A lot of those questions we don't have the answers to. A lot developing out here. Different moving parts. This is a very large crime scene. Again, I'm just going to step out of the shot just so you can get an idea of where we are. So we're at Farragut Square, the park, and just behind, on the other side of the park, maybe a block over to the right, is where the shooting took place, just steps away from the metro. And then another block behind is the White House. But again, we do know that President Trump has been briefed. He has been informed of the situation that is taking place, and we're just on standby here to see what additional information that we can gather here. But some better news than the news that we were reporting about an hour ago. We know that a correction has been made, and those 2 National Guard members are in the hospital right now fighting for their lives. And as the officials here mentioned, they're asking everyone to keep them in your prayers, especially as we enter this holiday weekend, guys.
Just so heartbreaking, especially on this holiday weekend. Nana, thank you. Let's get over to Bob Barnard, who's also covering this for us for another vantage point. Bob, if you can hear us, what was kind of interesting today is we are figuring out that this was targeted. The suspect came at the guardsmen, but also they asked the chief and Mayor Bowser, are there more than one suspect?
Yeah.
And they said, no, right now it seems like there's just one suspect. That suspect was taken into custody, also injured in this altercation that seemed to happen between both sides. Who else was on the scene? Other law enforcement? That has not been determined.
Yeah, we have seen here in the last couple of hours, this happened about 2:15. ATF, FBI, Secret Service. This is one of the most heavily protected areas in the entire country, if not the entire world. Bob has been over at the White House, right in front of Lafayette Square. A very different scene just a block away, Bob. But what can you tell us now at this hour?
Yeah, Homa and Sharon, we're still in the same basic position we were in. The White House is behind us now. You're looking at one of the scenes here. And what I've just been told by someone who just left the White House complex is that it is still on lockdown, but they're letting people leave, but nobody can go in. And by scenes, like this is right here, the intersection of Connecticut and H. And so if we look to the left, Doug, we'll show to the left here, that is H and 17th. So kind of the backside of the Farragut West Metro Station, which is where this happened. So you see a large police presence here at 17th and H, but then we'll pan to the right here and we see some movement here. So we've been seeing, you know, some of the officials who were at that news conference coming and going. This is looking north on Connecticut from H to I. So the scene is kind of between this vantage point and the other, just outside the Farragut West Metro Station. The issue is that these roads are closed. You can't really drive anywhere in here. These, again, are obviously law enforcement leaving. We're on foot able to get this close, which is closer than most because we're on kind of the back side on the extreme northwest corner of Lafayette Square. But there are a lot of people who are stranded here who maybe can leave the White House complex but cannot get to their cars. And we were speaking right before the news conference with Brian, who has been stranded here. Brian, tell me again, you were hoping to get out early. It is the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, but your car is inside the closed-off perimeter?
Absolutely. It's an unfortunate situation, but it's a minor inconvenience compared to what some other people are dealing with right now. So just trying to put things in perspective. What
is your reaction to what you're hearing? That earlier we were told these guardsmen were shot and killed by the West Virginia governor. Now the official word is that they're in critical condition, but they were just kind of, in a sense, doing their patrols right around the corner here and were ambushed.
It's very sad. Around the holidays, you hate to hear of any type of loss of life or any type of tragic situation. Unfortunately, it's the perils of being in this downtown area. You just really never know what's going to happen.
Ryan, thanks. Good luck to you, all right?
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving. So, like a number of people, Brian can't get to his car. So there are a lot of people who are stranded here, even though, like, we're in a pedestrian zone of the perimeter here. And again, I want to step out to show you, just kind of looking north on Connecticut toward the Farragut West Metro Station is where this happened. And yeah, I mean, was this, I hate to use the word crazy, but was this someone having a crisis that took it out on these National Guards people? Was this someone who has had a beef with the National Guard and the extra federal law enforcement presence in the city? We just don't know. And, you know, if they know who this person is, even though I'm assuming it's a male, that he's in the hospital suffering from a gunshot or multiple gunshot wounds, that if they know who he is, they're going to start getting an idea from his profiles, his online activity, if there is any, what his beef, if there was a beef, was, or they may just find out this is a person who was in crisis and unfortunately was armed and for whatever reason took it out on the National Guard troops. But again, in this whole area around Farragut North Metro, Farragut West Metro, the Farragut Square, Lafayette Square, I mean, you're basically talking kind of almost anything north of Constitution and south of DuPont Circle in this area, say from 15th to 18th, you just can't come or go. I mean, you can see they are escorting some people, and maybe Brian will be one of them shortly, to get their cars out. But it is still a wide perimeter of a crime scene here, and it just the sense we get from the armed Secret Service, you see U.S. Park Police, Metro Transit Police, D.C. Police, this thing is going to go on for some time. So for those who are directly impacted, they know that compared to life and death, it may not be the biggest thing, but this part of downtown Washington, including the White House, which remains on lockdown, it is a mess tonight, guys.
Bob, we know a very active investigation there at this hour, 3 hours after this shooting happened. We know Reagan National had issued a ground stop for security reasons. So this is impacting so much more than just that immediate area. But we also know and want to mention that the President Trump, and First Lady have already gone down to Florida. They left for the Thanksgiving holiday yesterday. Yeah. So despite them not being there, again, the White House still on lockdown at this hour. We want to go now to our Josh Rosenthal, who is at that scene, or as close as you can get, Josh, on 16th and I. Josh?
Yeah, just about, guys. We want to give you a little bit of a different vantage point. Bob is a couple blocks in that direction. I'm standing at 16th and I. So if you look up in this direction, you're looking up I Street, and 1 block up past that crime tape, if you can see it, that is the crime scene. That's where these National Guards members were shot. As you can see, still a very active crime scene. We've seen a lot of police coming and going since we've been out here for the past couple hours. One change that we've noticed since the last time we came to you live is now it does appear as though some general traffic is coming through too. So perhaps some streets near the crime scene, not at the crime scene, of course, but nearby, have been opened up. Now, if you come over in this direction, we want to be careful because that traffic's flowing again. You can see just about 2 blocks over there. That's the White House. That's how close this was to where it all happened. And of course, for months now, this is an area where we have seen a lot of members of the National Guard patrol. Now, follow me over in this direction. I want to introduce you to Melanie. Melanie, thank you so much for joining me. Melanie is in a familiar position to a lot of people down here tonight. Of course, the most important thing is what transpired, the condition of the National Guard members. But another part of this story is how everyone else is being impacted by it as well. Melanie, you told me you were just leaving work, walking by. First of all, what's your reaction to seeing all this?
I'm just shocked. I can't get to my car. I'm parked just a few feet away, and I don't know how I'm going to get home.
Which is another part of this story. This is a very, very busy area. You have people getting off work. You also have a lot of people who've come down here to D.C. for the holidays. We spoke to a couple people earlier who said that they were just here to spend a night in D.C. A lot of them can no longer get to their vehicles because they're too close to the crime scene. Melanie, first of all, I'm sorry to hear that. Has anybody talked to you? Have you been given any guidance?
No, not yet. I just came from work and I came here. I saw the crowd and the cameras, and I just don't know what to do. I was planning to ask around to see what to do. So in terms of getting home.
I'm really sorry. If we get information, I will be sure to bring it to you. The other thing I will mention here, and we've heard from so many people, is that this would be difficult no matter when it happened. It's especially difficult given that Thanksgiving is tomorrow and the holidays are coming up, right?
That's correct. I was on my way home to start my weekend, to start the holiday, and now I don't know what time I'm going to get home. We're thinking about you. Thank you so much for speaking to us, and good luck with everything. And also, of course, guys, tonight we're thinking about these 2 members of the National Guard who were shot here and who officials tell us are in critical condition. One more thing, if you could walk up this way, Jesse Burkett Hall doing a great job. That is the crime scene here tonight. It does appear as though some of these roads are a little bit more open than they had been previously, but still a lot of activity and a very active crime scene and investigation that is ongoing. Guys, for now, back to you.
All right, Josh, thank you. To Josh's point, this is a very densely charged area. I mean, we're talking about from civilians to offices to law enforcement, so close proximity to the White House. So already that area is so full of people normally. Now, this is like the day before the holidays. So some people still trying to get out of the city, others coming into the city. Here's what we know so far. So we know 2 National Guardsmen have been shot. They are in critical condition tonight. They were essentially targeted by a suspect who came around the corner, started shooting. There was some kind of an exchange. That suspect was taken to the ground and was taken into custody. Those 2 guardsmen now at a local hospital. Huge police presence in the area. We just heard Mayor Bowser speak. Also, the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, saying that this is prompting 500 additional National Guardsmen to now come into the city to increase that force, that federal force that we've been seeing over the last several months, where we saw thousands of guardsmen all over the country. Again, these two guardsmen from West Virginia. We want to go to this is a witness soundbite, right?
Actually, I think we're going to go back out live now to Julie Donaldson. She has been on the scene for hours now, just after this news broke. Julie, you were initially right there on the scene at 17th and I, pushed back as police expanded the perimeter. We know that they said they have that one suspected shooter in custody. He was also injured in some way by gunfire when the takedown happened. The two guards member that are currently in critical condition. Julie, what can you tell us about where you're at right now and what you're seeing and what you're hearing?
Right now, there's just, it's kind of like the amount of people that were here earlier when we first got on the scene at 3 o'clock, and we were up much closer on 17th Street, where you could kind of see the National Guard still standing around, and where the police were barricading off, and just very, very early, as even now they're still in preliminary parts of their investigation, but this was very early. I talked to some witnesses that said they heard it around about 2:15 in the afternoon. They heard what was gunfire. Many people kind of a little bit confused on what they were hearing as well. Well, it was gunfire. They thought it sounded kind of a little bit like fireworks. Some even said they thought maybe it was construction that was going on. And after that, there became a little bit of chaos. To my understanding, we have one of those witnesses, and let's hear from their account.
I was in the Uber. I heard right in front of 17th Street, and I heard boom, boom, 2 times. And then the Uber driver said, "Why are all these people running?" So then I look out the window, and it's little children, adults running, children on both sides of the street, running in the opposite direction. The supervision is saying to the children, "Go, go, run." And then I heard, "Help, help."
And we talked to somebody else earlier as well that was down here, and he said he was working in his office and he heard 2 different rounds of shots going off, and they saw somebody that was pinned to the ground. And Stacy there said that the person was wearing a hoodie. But there's a lot of different accounts that we're trying to get from people to understand, as we are, just kind of what took place here and exactly why. Of course, they said that this was targeted, but there were so many people that were out here just kind of like trying to see what was going on. And a lot of people we talked to as well, while they're local, they're working here. There are also people here that are on vacation. I mean, this is the holiday time, of course. We know D.C. is one of the top attractions in the country, and people coming out just trying to see the sights. In fact, I just ran into another couple that was from South Florida. Their daughter is celebrating her 13th birthday up here. She said she was in her hotel room, and she saw everybody just running down the streets, police presence coming on in, and she was definitely a little scared. And her parents weren't in the hotel room with her until they got back to realize she is safe, she's okay, and they can continue on with their holiday plans here, but not without a disruption, because this is very disturbing for anybody that's here. I mean, there's a heavy presence, of course, of police down here as they're doing their investigation. There's a heavy presence of media down here covering this case. There's a heavy presence of people just in curiosity as to what's going on. But as we're learning of the critical condition, and there's been a lot of different talk I've heard from very people who saw what was going on of exactly the extent of that. But we'll wait for, of course, more information as that does come out. But right now, the police presence is still on down the street, not as heavy as it was before, but this will, I'm sure, carry on for quite some time until we do get all the information that does come from tonight and from today's just unfortunate. I mean, when you really think about the heart of this, everybody's here to celebrate Thanksgiving, and now families are being told that their loved ones are not in a state to be able to celebrate with them on this day.
Julie, it has truly been devastating, I think, as everyone has been dealing with this. And again, you see that massive law enforcement presence out there, along with people who just live and work in that part of D.C. And so many people, as Julie mentioned, who are visiting from out of town or people who have returned home. It was a very chaotic scene when we first broke in around 2 o'clock to see so many people down there. And we've been hearing from the president, who is down at his resort in Palm Beach, Vice President J.D. Vance, who is in Kentucky. Again, so many people traveling for the Thanksgiving holiday. And now we want to hear from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth talking about adding more National Guard members in light of this shooting that happened just blocks away from the White House.
Heroes willing to serve in Washington, D.C., serve for people they don't know and they've never met, because they love their country and their capital and their community. And someone decided to turn that into targeting National Guardsmen. That will only stiffen our resolve. We will never back down. We will secure our capital. We will secure our cities. In fact, this happened just steps away from the White House. It will not stand.
Yeah, the White House on lockdown. The President, First Lady at Palm Beach getting their holiday celebrations underway. We also heard from the President today who called the suspect an animal who will be paying a very steep price, has said that he is with the National Guardsmen, who are truly great people, as you heard Hegseth saying today, that they are heroes. Let's get over to Nana on K and 17th with more she is seeing at this hour. As this investigation is unfolding, Nana, this is going to be some time as they interview witnesses, go through all the video surveillance, kind of get all the evidence on the crime scenes. And this is a very wide perimeter.
Yes, it's going to be what we know as a all hands on deck investigation. A number of agencies coming together to try and get to the bottom of what took place here. So as mentioned, I'm on K and 17. This is right by the park, and I'm going to just step out of the shot for you just to get an idea of how big this scene is right now. So this presser just actually wrapped up about 20 minutes ago, and a lot of information was clarified that I just want to go over just so we can catch everyone up to speed. The biggest thing is the condition of these two National Guard members. We now know that they are both in critical condition at a nearby hospital. We also know that a suspect was also injured during the shooting who is at a hospital. We'll get to exactly how police describe the incident took place, but I just want to mention a lot of leaders at this press conference, including FBI Director Kash Patel, who opened by calling this act horrendous act of violence, and also wanted to make clear that no one should make a mistake, and they should know that justice will be brought and they will be treated to the highest level of the law. He went ahead to thank Mayor Bowser for her assistance. Mayor Bowser also spoke and said she is in communication with Pam Bondi, and when she called Pam Bondi, she was on the phone or with the president at the time of this incident. Now let's go back to 2:15 this afternoon. We're told National Guard members were doing their job, patrolling. If you've been anywhere in this area in D.C. these past couple of months, that's what they do. They patrol these areas. And that's when the suspect came from around the corner with a weapon and just started opening fire and struck those two National Guard members. There was other members in the area who were told then pulled out their weapon, because we know that these Guard members are now armed, and fired at the suspect, and that's how the suspect got injured. Again, these two National Guard members rushed to a nearby hospital, are fighting for their lives. But Mayor Bowser just tonight asking for the community to send their thoughts and prayers to the families of these two National Guard members, but also the families of all National Guard members who are out here doing their job. This is what they're doing. They responded and they're here. They've been here for months, and we just have this unfortunate situation that kind of unraveled here today. A lot happening. Like we mentioned, the scene is just so big, it's extensive, so it's kind of trying hard to try and gather where everything took place, but we believe it was straight down behind where I am standing, just about a block away from the White House on H Street. A lot developing, but as you mentioned, this is a all hands on deck approach to figure out what took place. You have local partners and federal partners involved in trying to piece together. But right now, the biggest thing, especially that Mayor Bowser was calling for, is that everyone come together and just pray for those Guard members who are currently in the hospital, for their families as we head into Thanksgiving tomorrow.
Nana, thank you so much. And truly devastating, as if you've been in or around D.C. in the last several months, you have no doubt crossed paths with these National Guard members. Yeah. They've been sent here from all over the country, Texas, Ohio, West Virginia. At one point, their highest number was 2,200 National Guard members on the streets of D.C. They were inside the metro stops. They were at the National Mall. They were in the neighborhood. So many people have had interactions with them, and this was not without controversy. A lot of people did not want them here, but they have been a part of our lives here in the district for the last several months. Just last week, a judge ruling that their presence here from out of state was unlawful. The judge putting that on pause to send them back until December 11th. That is just, a few days away that the numbers were going to start dwindling. But while they've been here, we've seen them with their beautification efforts of D.C. They have been picking up trash. They have been mulching. They have, again, been inside that metro stop. shot all throughout downtown D.C. And today, these 2 guard members from West Virginia who were shot, they were doing what's called a high visibility patrol. That is simply being there, their presence, walking the streets in their fatigues to make people feel safer, to say, listen, we're here. If you need help, we're here. Their presence, the president pointing to and the vice president pointing to, driving a drop in crime here in the last few months since this initiative has started. And so to see this happen again on Thanksgiving Eve, they were not home, they were not with their families, they have been away from their families for months. It is tragic. We're taking a live look right now at a GW hospital less than a mile away, where 3 people were taken from that scene. We know the 2 guard members who are in critical condition, and one, the shooter, who, again, President Trump is calling an animal. AG Pambandi saying they're going to prosecute to the fullest extent of the law.
Yeah, I mean, as we take a live look here at the emergency room, a lot of questions remain tonight. What exactly is the current condition of these 2 guardsmen? As of a few hours ago, critical condition, a lot of prayers, a lot of people hoping and praying for the families. A lot of the guardsmen, as mentioned here, that have been in Washington, D.C., have no law enforcement background. They are simply volunteering there and dedicating their time to keeping our streets safe. Now, I guess the bigger question now as to what happens from this point on. How does the landscape of D.C. look like with more National Guard troops? But again, this happening a day before the holiday when these guardsmen were supposed to be with their families is truly heartbreaking. We don't know if it's 2 men, women, that has not been clarified, but clearly the families have been in touch with law enforcement tonight. And of course, that is the hospital where we believe those guardsmen are being treated. The suspect also at a local hospital as well. Let's get back to Bob Barnard, who is tracking it all for us from the streets here. Bob, anything that you're hearing? Are you still seeing a lot of folks trying to get to their cars and get back home? Again, it is the night before the holiday.
Yeah, Sharon, people are just trying to get out and about, whether they're leaving work or they're visiting town and trying to get somewhere that they can't cross through the crime scene. And so they're trying to figure out how far wide and around they have to go to get where they're going. And they're people we've been seeing all this time. And Brian, who got out a little bit early today on this Wednesday before Thanksgiving, hoping to go home early, is still here now. I will tell you that it's been 3 hours now since the shooting, and the White House remains on lockdown. However, we have seen people leaving on foot, but none of the vehicles that are within the complex barricades and surroundings here that are leaving. So, there might be some people, because of what's happened just a block away from us, and the White House is right behind us here at Lafayette Square, between us, might still be in working, but a lot of vehicles are stuck in here, and yet people, we're told, aren't allowed in, but they can leave. And others who work in this area and park in the various garages around here are stranded as well. And you see, this is one of the armed, uniformed Secret Service officers maintaining the perimeter here, which the intersection we are at is Connecticut Avenue and H Street, and there are some vehicles that are leaving that are part of the operation here. But as we pan to the right here and look north on Connecticut to I Street, that is the crime scene. And as you're looking at your TV screens to the left there, which would be going west, down I Street to the Farragut West Metro Station. So that is where this all started. And there are a number of blocks in this, a radius of this area here, to include the White House, that are closed off right now. And you have a lot of people, I've heard people say, we're trying to get to dinner over there, and they're like, well, you have to go way around. So people trying to leave and go home, others who have appointments or reservations in this downtown core area, between, say, DuPont Circle, Farragut West, and Farragut Square. They're stuck, and you see these people sitting here, and it's going to be tough to probably see. We're just going to quiet for 1 second as this little procession of that Secret Service. They didn't even wait. I don't know who this is or what that is, but the armed Secret Service officer I've been showing you has been lowering and raising the police tape. When cars have come and gone, these guys drove right through it. So, honestly, if that's just someone trying to get somewhere, casually, that was a little ridiculous because, I mean, there have been people walking across the street because the street is closed to other cars, but not to pedestrians. Like this guy is going to go right through these two officers. I sure hope he saw him. When you guys normally see something like that, you think, okay, there's a fire, there's a car accident, there's a shooting, something's going on. So I wonder if something else is going on, or if those are just officials and upper echelons of the different law enforcement agencies trying to get somewhere. They're going awfully fast, and I won't say recklessly, but again, in their path are a lot of pedestrians because these roadways are look at this lady right here. I mean, the roads are closed to vehicles, but people have been walking around, and those guys just whipped through here and blew through the crime scene tape. So that's the first, and we've been out here a couple hours. I haven't seen anything kind of move with that urgency since we've been here. And it's going to be hard to see, Doug, but I do want to, if you don't mind, panning over to the right there and seeing Brian, who we spoke to a short time ago, who left his office early, who at this hour, almost 5:30, is still sitting here on the wall there because his car is in one of the garages that's inside the perimeter. He's not the only one, but he's the one we've been speaking to, who are kind of stranded by the ongoing investigation. Of course, even he was saying, I don't mind the little inconvenience in light of the fact that you have two visiting National Guards members from West Virginia who are in what we're told bad shape, if they're still hanging in there, in the hospital, apparently ambushed here on the streets of D.C. Just literally, I mean, it's less than a half mile, so it's like 2.5 blocks from the White House here in downtown D.C., Sharon.
And Bob has been in front of the White House for us. Bob, thank you so much for that vantage point. And you saw law enforcement racing through that police tape.
Yeah.
We know at the press conference that they had about half an hour ago, we had FBI Director Kash Patel, MPD Executive Chief Carroll, and Mayor Muriel Bowser, who we want to hear from right now, as really this is seeing an incredibly heavy national and local police presence.
We join with the FBI director in ensuring that MPD investigates, the U.S. Attorney prosecutes this case to the fullest extent of the law. This is a targeted shooting. One individual who appeared to target these guardsmen, that individual has been taken into custody.
Yeah, and they were saying this is going to be treated as an assault on a federal law enforcement officer. What's really, I guess, incredible about that moment is how quickly the National Guardsmen acted, because to our understanding, this suspect was taken down quickly, and if not, this could have been a much different scene that is playing out right now. But again, one suspect in custody. They have been injured. We don't know their identity, their motive. That may take days or weeks to come. And two National Guardsmen at this hour still in critical condition. But as you heard the mayor say, this was a targeted attack. So again, that motive will be very critical. Let's go out to Julie Donaldson, who's also covering this from a different angle. Julie, the impact this is having on the entire city. I mean, we just saw police officers racing through that crime tape because at the same time, just driving through the streets of D.C. when there's not a perimeter is difficult, let alone emergency officers, police that have to get somewhere. This is difficult tonight.
Yeah, Sharon, we're here and we're all covering the same story, but the world's continuing on and there are other things that are happening. People need to come and go, get to work, get home, get ready for their holidays and be with families. And this is a very large perimeter that has been roped off. Again, we were earlier when we first got here at 3 o'clock, we got to be able to be down on 17th Street, and then they pushed it back. They pushed that perimeter back to 16th Street. So now we're all back up here a good block away from where the crime scene happened. But people are working still, and a lot of places went into lockdown. Kojo is one of those. We're seeing people that are trying to get out of this. Tell us, this happened earlier around like 2:15. What was the state in your office when this took place?
Well, it was like all of a sudden, out of nowhere, one of my colleagues ran and told me he just heard gunshots outside, and then he looked out the window and saw a lot of people running. And then we checked into it, found out little details that were sporadic but not totally accurate. But now, we were just locked up in there for pretty much the whole day. This is my first time coming out.
When your colleague says that he hears gunshots, what do you do? What do people do in that moment?
People do different things. Me, I don't know. It's like I get into everything's turned very serious then, you know. So we just made sure there wasn't nothing going on inside the building. And then once we found out we were on lockdown, they locked all the entrances and exits in our building. We were fine.
So is that lockdown? Obviously, you're out. Lockdown's lifted. Are people able to try and get home now?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I'm ready to go.
What is that messaging when you do go into lockdown?
It was a building message. I guess some of the key people, they started to make sure everybody knew what was going on. And it just goes through the building, you know, word of mouth.
When you're hearing the information unfold and you're hearing that it's 2 National Guardsmen, what are people saying? What kind of discussions are you having? Like, are you able to continue working, or does this kind of overtake your afternoon?
It's distracting, yes, and you just want to make sure it's not a domino effect that's happening. So you want to make sure that you can get home to your family, and it's kind of nerve-wracking.
Speaking of family, did you need to call them and let them know that you're safe, knowing that you work right here where this took place?
I did, yeah. I had to call my wife, and I called a couple of friends that know I'm down this way, and they were saying they were watching it on the news, and they were just checking in on me as well. So, yeah.
How are you doing right now?
Well, I'm fine right now. Yeah, I'm fine right now. It seems like they have it all under control.
And we know Kojo is coming out here, some leftovers from a holiday party. So I know you want to get home to your wife. Again, this day being just so unfortunate of people thinking they're going to celebrate with their colleagues and go to work and be able to go home to their families. And this is so disruptive. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Let me send it back to you guys in the studio.
All right, Julie, thank you so much. And as all of this is unfolding, of course, not only here in the nation's capital, but across the nation, we are hearing people respond to this horrific crisis that we are dealing with here in D.C. Of course, we heard from President Trump calling the suspect an animal, that he will pay the ultimate price. Also thanking the brave men and women of the National Guard, saying, "I am with you as your president." There was some conflicting reports earlier when we heard from West Virginia's Governor Patrick Morrisey, but he does write, "Our prayers are with these brave service members, their families, the extraordinary men and women of the Guard who put themselves on the line every day. West Virginia stands united behind them, and we will not rest until justice is served." I know a lot of other people, Homa, have been kind of weighing in across the country.
Vice President J.D. Vance is in Kentucky, again, for the Thanksgiving holiday. He has said he's praying for the National Guard members who have been shot, again, in critical condition at this hour at a nearby hospital. He says they are sword and shield. We know Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has said he spoke to President Trump, and they will be boosting the number of National Guard troops who are deployed here in the district. Right now, they're at 2,200. They want to add an additional 500 troops, saying the goal is simply to make D.C. safe and beautiful again. So we have heard, from leaders all over the country at this hour. Again, these 2 National Guard members right now in critical condition. The shooter has reportedly also been shot, suffering a gunshot wound when he was taken down. Mayor Bowser and FBI Director Kash Patel saying this was a targeted attack, that the shooter came out from behind a corner, targeted these 2 Guard members who were doing a high visibility patrol, as we have seen them doing for months here on district streets right now. So let's go back out live to our Josh Rosenthal, who is on 16th and I. Josh, what are you seeing at this hour?
Yeah, guys, that's exactly right. We're standing at the intersection of 16th and I. This isn't far from where we just heard from Julie earlier. And if you just briefly look in that direction, the shootings took place at 17th and I, so 1 block up that way. If you follow me over here, this is towards the White House, which is only about 2 blocks in that direction. I want to introduce you to Laura. Laura just walked up, started talking to us, and Laura works at 17th and Penn. You left work early today, you said, and you came back here, and why was that?
I came back. I actually just wanted to to see the scene and say a prayer. I've had a lot of recent exposure to the National Guard because I work at 17th and Penn, obviously across from the White House, but also at Logan Circle, which is nearby. And I just have seen the good that they're doing. The crime is down, and I want my friends in the suburbs to know that they are not militant at all. I have seen them work with homeless people and help them get to a shelter. They've actually been quite kind. You can breathe again around here. When a couple of months ago, before they started working here, someone was actually shot in Logan Circle and murdered. And this is because crime has changed in D.C. over the past 18 months. Just the way it's being done. Teenagers are now getting out of SUVs and running around. It's not the typical crime that it used to be.
And Laura, if I may jump in, no, it's okay, and thank you so much for talking to us. I do think that this context is important because the deployment of the National Guard is not without controversy, and everybody can feel however they feel about that. However, when you talk to people about their actual interactions with the people, not the entity, but the individuals who are here patrolling and who tonight are victims of what appears to be a tragic crime. Often what you hear when you talk about the people is that you've had these positive interactions. So whether or not you like that they're here, the guardsmen themselves, what you're saying is that they've done a good job. You've appreciated having them here, and it sounds like you've talked to a lot of them.
I have, and they've been very restrained, and they actually have a guidebook that they go by, and we just welcome them in our neighborhood very, very much. It's important to feel safe, and certainly want to know more details of what happened down here so close to the White House, where the Secret Service is obviously based as well.
Laura, before I let you go, we talked about how you work at 17th in Pennsylvania, so you only work about a block away. You were not here at the time of the shooting. She had left early and had come back, but what is your reaction to having something like this happen so close to where you work?
Well, I think it's an absolute tragedy. It's an absolute tragedy. Again, no matter how you feel about the deployment, these are men and women who are serving our country, and doing the best that they know how to do, and they mean no harm, and certainly do not deserve to be shot and even potentially killed.
Thank you very much for your time, Laura. Please be safe getting home, and thank you for speaking with us. One more time, guys, if you just want to swing in this direction, Jess, maybe come on this side of the pole here. I do just want to show you one more time the crime scene here up I Street. We're walking towards I and 17th where this took place. Still very active, still a lot of emergency vehicles. Some traffic is moving through here. We have talked to quite a few people who just so happen to be down here trying to go to dinner, trying to come home from work. But again, this investigation, it is ongoing, and guys, as I send it back to you, it goes without saying that this is likely going to continue for hours and hours into the night.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is something that the investigation is going to take potentially days, weeks, months until we find out the clear picture exactly what happened. Just another point here that the National Guard troops, I mean, most of these folks have civilian jobs. They are here on a part-time basis, volunteering to up security cases in cases of national emergencies. Again, 500 more National Guard troops are going to be coming into this D.C. because of this. But your heart goes out to those families tonight that are grieving because they don't know what's happening to these two National Guardsmen. These are their friends, their families, their comrades, people that have been working alongside for quite some time.
And so many of them deployed here to the district for months now. They are away from home. They're away from their families. Yeah. Even tonight on the eve of Thanksgiving, where all you hear people talking about is going home to family, to spend time with their family. They were here on the streets of D.C. House Speaker Mike Johnson praising the heroic work of the National Guard, writing the National Guard has done heroic work this year, working around the clock to make our nation's capital safe again. We are forever grateful for the swift actions of law enforcement and for all those who risk their own lives to protect everyone else. And you're hearing from Democratic leadership in the Congress also speaking out right now. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer saying, "My heart breaks for the victims of this horrific shooting." House Rep Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries also writing he's praying for them, thankful for the brave law enforcement officers and first responders who swiftly apprehended a suspect. I do want to point out right now at this hour, we don't know the identity of that suspected shooter. We're really not even close to having a motive at this hour, but we do know that that person was shot and has been taken to a local hospital. Still a lot of unanswered questions, 3+ hours after this incident unfolded right there in the heart of D.C., just a couple of blocks away from the White House. Let's get back out to our Nana Santubonsu, who is on 17th and K. We heard in the last hour from Mayor Muriel Bowser, Executive Assistant Chief Carroll from MPD, and FBI Director Kash Patel. Nana, what can you tell us now?
Hey, Homa, I want to get to kind of how we got here in a second, but you did bring up the eve of Thanksgiving, and that's what we keep hearing out here even just moments ago. People just can't believe that this kind of horrific act would happen on the eve of Thanksgiving and right here in the heart of the district. Like you said, Mayor Bowser, Assistant Chief Carroll, and FBI Director Kash Patel, the message they were all kind of sync with is just praying for the family members of these 2 National Guard members who were just out here doing their job patrolling. I'm going to get out of the shot so we can kind of reset where we are and what took place starting around 2:15. So we're actually looking down straight through the Farragut Square Park. 17th Street is to the right of your screen, where we're going to slowly pan, and straight down that street is where we're told this incident happened. So let's go back to 2:15. FBI Director Kash Patel describing this as a horrendous act of violence. We're told these 2 National Guard members were doing their job. It's called visibility patrol. They kind of just walk the streets to make sure everything is okay. That's when the suspect, who is still currently unknown, comes around the corner, opens fire, striking these 2 National Guard members. We know that they do walk in groups, so there was a couple not too far away, a couple National Guard members who also removed their weapons because they are armed and fired at the suspect. FBI Director Kash Patel calling those National Guard members heroes. They were able to stop that suspect. We know that 2 National Guard members have been rushed to the hospital where they're fighting for their lives. Mayor Bowser also just adding, once again, please send thoughts and prayers to these families who are just with their loved ones again the night before Thanksgiving. Bowser also added that she has briefed U.S. Attorney Pam Bondi, who was actually speaking with President Trump at the moment. So a lot that we're trying to gather. It's still an active scene. I asked if we're actually going to get an update or if officials will have new information for us tonight, and we're told if necessary, they'll come back out here. But right now, they're focus is on being with those 2 National Guard members who are in the hospital, and also trying to figure out why and how it all happened. We asked about a motive during the press conference, and Assistant Chief Carroll was not able to provide an answer. He says all of that is part of their investigation, but we do know that at least these 2 National Guard members were obviously targeted by the suspect. Why, we don't know, but we're working to find out. You can hear just the sirens, a lot taking place here. Again, and it's also rush hour now in the middle of downtown, so there's so much taking place. We have tourists in town. We have people who live here just getting off work, all just shocked by this news that 2 National Guard members, and remember, they've been down here for months. So for a lot of people who work or live in this area, they see these National Guard members almost sometimes becoming part of their community. So one lady was even saying, oh my gosh, which one was it? Is it trying to describe different people? And we were just told them we don't know. Right now, we just know that they're in the hospital. So something that's definitely impacting people who live and work around here. Hearing that people that they potentially see every day are now in this current situation. But guys, I'm going to send it back to you as we continue to speak to people and just try and figure out what's going on.
Yeah, a busy night, a chaotic night in the streets of D.C. Nana, thank you so much. Just to kind of give you a little visual as to where this is all playing out, we've been talking about this happening essentially just a block or 2 from the White House. I mean, you can see that proximity right there, 17th and I, 17th and K. That's a very dense area. A lot of law enforcement already permeating that area on a normal basis. A lot of cabinet members coming out of the White House. House, a lot of civilians, people working in that area, businesses. This area is so highly congested that you can imagine something like this happening in broad daylight at 2 p.m. How traumatic that can be. One of our witnesses we spoke to earlier, that spoke to Julie, just said it sounded like maybe construction work, the bangs of construction work. But then he actually had witnessed the two guardsmen on the floor, potentially one of them being resuscitated, another suspect on the ground. For people just walking by, getting out of work, going on their lunch break, that can be very jarring to see. So again, just a chaotic night here in the streets of D.C. as we're trying to figure out exactly what unfolded. We might not get those answers for some time.
Absolutely not. I mean, this is one of the most highly protected, highly surveilled areas in the entire country, just mere blocks away from the White House. And one thing that really stood out to me that Nana was saying was a woman asking, is it so-and-so National Guard member? I think when they first got here, a lot of people were jarred by their presence, walking in the subway stations, walking in the metro, walking along the National Mall in their fatigues. You saw them posted up with their vehicles outside of Union Station. And at that time, it was jarring. And now they have become, to so many people, like friends and families that you see on your way to work. And so that really does hit home. They were expected to be here through summer 2026. There's a lot of court battles going on right now with whether they should, their numbers should be reduced.
Whether they're illegally here.
Right. Whether they should stay. And now they're saying that they will be adding 500 more. And so truly, I mean, just such a sad, tragic situation for this to have happened again on Thanksgiving Eve. So now let's go back out to our Bob Barnard, who has been outside of the White House, Lafayette Square, for the last several hours. Bob, what can you tell us?
Yeah, Homa, we've been speaking to people from all over the place. Locals who, the sentiment that I heard earlier, someone speaking to one of my colleagues saying that I was not happy, and I'm not happy that the National Guard is here on our streets, but this is awful. They're humans. They didn't deserve this. And a gentleman from Australia who said, I love coming to D.C. I come here every year. I can't believe this has happened. We are literally right behind my photographer, Doug Wilkes, is the perimeter of the White House complex. Right behind him is Lafayette Square, and then the White House just a little further back. But we're here to show you the scene here. This is looking north on Connecticut Avenue from H Street, and the roads are still closed. The White House is still on lockdown. We are seeing some people leave. Nobody's been allowed to enter the White House complex, which is more than just the White House and the grass and the fenced area around it. And there are others who are still stranded here, as Josh and others have spoken to, whose cars are parked inside the crime scene perimeter and can't get out. So that's kind of the way the situation is now, 3.5 hours after this shooting and the nature of it. That's the question I think a lot of people have, is what was this all about? And were these guardsmen targeted because of who they are? And we just don't have those answers yet. But the impact is that this thing is being investigated. They believe it was a lone wolf actor involved who is in the hospital, detained, so not an active situation, but this crime scene is being poured over, and it is extended beyond where this happened, which was at 17th and I Streets, right outside the Farragut West metro station, catty corner from Farragut Square, and on the other side of that, the Farragut North metro station. So you've just got a wide area that is blocked off to vehicles. We're in an area where pedestrians can get to, but not beyond here. So we're speaking to people who are trying to get to restaurants that are just a block west of us, but unfortunately they can't go through the crime scene. The couple from D.C. was trying to walk to an event at the Kennedy Center, and it was going to be a much longer walk because of what's happening here. And others just stunned by this act of violence so close to the White House, targeting people in uniform. I mean, anybody who's spent some time here in D.C. and is aware, we have crime in D.C., even though since the federal surge, the president will say there hasn't been a homicide and crime is down, but the mayor will say it's been trending down since the high of 2023. But this kind of crime in this area is just so unusual, and for even those who are not thrilled that the National Guard is here, heartbreaking for the young people who were targeted. And we don't know their ages, their genders, but we do know they were National Guardsmen, Guard members from West Virginia who were not home with their families. As people here, we've seen large families together and others trying to get home to their families. They will tonight at some point, those who are still stranded here. And if you pan off to the right here, Doug, you can see there are just still some people here kind of like at the crime scene tape wondering where they can go and how they can get home. But they will get home tonight. There are a couple of people from West Virginia, citizen soldiers, who will not.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the heartbreaking part that we're all trying to digest, right? Bob, thank you so much. Is a lot of these families now bracing for news as to the condition of these two National Guardsmen? Just to catch you up briefly, this all unfolded after 2 p.m. today in an ambush attack. A lone gunman coming around the corner near the White House, about a block or two, near 17th and I, targeting National Guardsmen, shooting at them. Other National Guardsmen intervened. There was some kind of back and forth. A suspect was taken to the ground. That suspect now also injured at a local hospital. The Guardsmen, we are waiting to get an update on their condition. There was some confusion earlier in the day as to what's going on with them. Again, latest we have heard they are in critical condition tonight. But again, a devastating scene that is playing out. You can see hours later the scene that it looks like right now in the streets of D.C. with a massive police presence. So many different law enforcement agencies will be involved in this. But FBI Director Kash Patel saying that this is going to be a lead from the federal agency because they see this as an assault on a federal law enforcement officer. Let's listen to him.
The reason that this suspect is in custody is because of the bravery of the men and women of the National Guard who responded due to their extensive training to secure American lives today. There was not any further injury and any further shootings. We should highlight the fact that the men and women of law enforcement, the interagency, the Department of War, and the National Guard executed their training with great precision today and prevented an even greater tragedy.
And that's FBI Director Kash Patel. We also know Mayor Muriel Bowser has been in contact with U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi, as well as D.C. U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro, saying they will prosecute this suspected shooter to the fullest extent of the law. At this point, we do not have an identity of that shooter. Name, age, not even a gender has been revealed at this hour, about nearing 4 hours after the shooting happened. But we do know that that person was taken down by National Guard members who were also in the area. And if you've seen them walking around D.C., you typically see them traveling in pairs or packs of several of them, walking through the metro stations, walking along the National Mall. Again, we have seen them going on 4+ months now. More than 2,000 National Guard members on district streets. Whether you agree with them being here or whether you don't, they have become sort of the fabric of D.C. now, as their presence has been very well known. And these two particular Guards members who were shot were doing a high visibility patrol in that area, again, just a couple of blocks away from the White House. So let's go back out, back out live now to our Julie Donaldson, who has been on scene just minutes really after all of this broke. Julie?
Yeah, Homo, we were supposed to be celebrating tonight Alex Ovechkin scoring 900 goals. We were down at Cap One Arena and getting ready for that and talking to some of his teammates and a ceremony that was being taken place. This is also a time where people want to celebrate the holidays. There's supposed to be a lot of positivity on today, and we get the call that there is a shooting and there was an active shooter down here, and we get here as fast as we can. We get here about 45 minutes after that shooting took place, which was approximately around 2:15, according to witnesses that we talked to. We got here basically right at 3 o'clock, and already this street behind me was lined with police cars, flashing lights all the way up and down the street on both sides of it. It was such a heavy presence of police. There were cars that were marked, so many cars that were not marked. As we know, this is a investigation between so many different departments coming together to figure this one out and try to figure out exactly what did happen. Of course, we've had more details from that. But as I talked to a lot of different witnesses today, there were some different accounts on how many were injured and just what were the extent of those injuries. Some people didn't want to go on camera because they were so disturbed from what they saw and what had taken place. But we did talk to some, and here's their account.
I was walking to lunch and got to 17th and I Street, and we heard gunshots. So we ran about 4 or 5 storefronts down I Street. Then we kind of thought maybe it was construction. Then we heard another round of gunshots, probably like 10 seconds later, maybe even less. So we ran a little bit further. Then, after that, like a minute after that, a lot of people thought it was construction. So, like a lot of security people are out in the street. So I went back to get my lunch and witnessed they had one person pinned down and yelling at him to stay down. And then there were 2 National Guards on the ground. One, it looked like they were trying to resuscitate. And then there were a couple of National Guard that were hugging each other that were obviously very upset about what had happened.
As some of the witnesses I talked to were very disturbed on the events that they did see. Since then, we've talked to a lot of people that are just trying to get out of work. Their places went into lockdown. They've been in there all afternoon. Again, this was around 2:15 this afternoon. Places went into lockdown pretty early. So here we are a couple hours later. We've even had some folks that are trying to get to their car and trying to ask police, can they be able to get to that so they can get home to their families and be able to hug the ones that they're with. As we know, some tonight are not, from this devastating news of these National Guardsmen that are in the hospital and fighting for their lives. For all that we know, is we're just continuing to get more information from this. Now, I want to give you a little bit of the scene, because when we first got here, again, we were on 17th Street. We got pushed back to 16th. But I want Brian Gregg to kind of show you a little bit of where we are right now. There were dozens and dozens of media. It's starting to clear out a little bit as the evening does carry on, but you can already tell just how many people are still out here, all of them trying to gather as much information as they can on just what was happening here tonight. And it continues all the way down the other side. It has just been a lot of, people trying to go through what they are hearing, talk to people that are coming out, trying to gather as much information as we can. But as the severity of the injuries to the National Guardsmen has gone on, you could feel it being a little bit heavier. When we first got here, there's a lot of people out here for the holidays walking around. We talked to people from Georgia. We talked to people from Florida that were just up here trying to enjoy a birthday, trying to enjoy Thanksgiving. And this comes and disrupts and disturbs their day. There's a lot of curiosity earlier. Now that you know the severity of it, it's a little bit heavier, I will say, definitely out here. Never want to have any of this news at all. But people have like a little bit more of a somber feeling about them, realizing just the severity of what took place here tonight. Ladies.
Yeah, Julie, thank you. I mean, this is supposed to be a joyous time, right? This is the holiday lights are up. People are getting ready for their Thanksgiving meals with their families. Families are getting together, that last-minute holiday rush. And to see this kind of play out in the streets, and not only to see the chaos, but also the amount of law enforcement that have now been deployed to handle this situation tonight and leading into tomorrow and the days to come, and all the families impacted by this. And the National Guardsmen, just last week, a federal judge said that the National Guard troops here in D.C. were unlawful. And now the president is hoping to get an emergency appeal in place so that they can bring another 500 National Guardsmen to our area, not only for safety in the streets, but again, these are National Guardsmen who are volunteers, typically have civilian jobs, typically don't have law enforcement backgrounds. So if you kind of couple that with just what's happening throughout the streets of D.C. now, it's quite the scene to see what's going to happen after Thanksgiving.
And we have seen this, unfold before our eyes, and we keep coming back to this, that it is Thanksgiving Eve. So many people are, either in the district to visit family. They've come back home. There are tourists there. People are still working. It is Wednesday, so people were still in that area working. And we heard about 4:45 from FBI Director Kash Patel, who says the FBI is going to take the lead on this, and from MPD's executive chief, and from Mayor Muriel Bowser, who was saying this is a targeted attack. Let's take a listen to her.
We join with the FBI director in ensuring that MPD investigates, the U.S. attorney prosecutes this case to the fullest extent of the law. This is a targeted shooting. One individual who appeared to target these guardsmen, that individual has been taken into custody.
And again, And again, as we take a live picture right now in Northwest D.C., you could see all those flashing lights as a huge law enforcement presence take us over the streets of D.C., just blocks from the Capitol. Our coverage of this shooting in D.C. continues on the 6th. Stay with us.
And we see this massive perimeter. Again, this is going from 16th, 17th and I, Connecticut, just a couple of blocks from the White House. This happened as we go into the 6 o'clock hour. Just to recap you, around 2:15, 2 National Guard members. And at this hour, we know that they are in critical condition. The shooter also taken into custody, suffering gunshot wounds of his or her own. At this point, we don't know the identity of that shooter, but a very active scene still at this hour.
Yeah, the president is not there in the White House. The White House is on lockdown. The president in Mar-a-Lago for the holiday festivities. We're going to leave it there right now, but our continued coverage of this targeted shooting here in D.C. continues. Stay with us.
And top of the hour here on Fox 5. Our breaking news coverage continues tonight. 2 National Guard members targeted, shot near the White House. The troops from West Virginia are in critical condition in the 6 p.m. hour.
And the lone gunman is in custody tonight, also shot. The shooting happening just after 2 o'clock near 17th and I streets in Northwest. This is outside the Farragut West Metro Station. You can see here just how close that scene is to the People's House, to the White House. Police saying that the Guard members were on patrol when the suspect came around a corner and then just opened fire on him.
D.C. police say the gunman was then shot and quickly taken into custody by other Guard troops who were nearby. It's still unclear how the suspect was shot. Right now, still no motive for this attack and no details on that person's identity. The FBI now leading this investigation with the help of several federal agencies and D.C. police.
Yeah, our crews now, they have been very active on the scene right when this news broke, and they have stayed with us throughout the evening. Bob Barnard, Julie Donaldson, Josh Rosenthal, all standing by with the very latest. But we do want to start with Nana Sinyabonsu, who has some new information. Nana?
Hey guys, yes, a lot happening right now. It's an active scene. We're on 17 and K. Straight back behind me, you'll see a number of law enforcement agencies investigating what took place on 17th and I. Let's go back to 2:15 this afternoon. That's when officers responded to the block again of 17 and I about a shooting. When they arrived is when they found out that 2 National Guard members had been shot. They say a suspect came from around the corner, opened fire, hitting those 2 National Guard members. But if you've been in D.C. recently, you know that these National Guard members, they patrol. That's exactly what they're doing. So we heard another National Guard member pulled out their weapon. Again, they are armed and fired at the suspect. So the suspect is in custody, but also has injuries as well. Mayor Bowser, FBI Director Kash Patel, and Assistant Chief Carroll with MPD all here at the press conference coming together, asking the community to band together and pray for the families of these 2 National Guard members as they are in a nearby hospital, again, fighting for their lives. FBI Director Kash Patel calling this a horrendous act of violence. At this moment right now, we do not know what the motive was that was asked. We asked what kind of weapon was used. We don't have that information. But again, calling on the community to come together, stand by, and pray for these families, the families right before Thanksgiving Eve.
Nana, thank you. And our Bob Barnard is actually near the White House as well. And Bob, is the White House still on lockdown?
It is, Kenneth, Angie. Yes, it's on lockdown, been ever since this whole thing started. Lockdown in the sense that nobody's allowed in to the complex that has been guarded by heavily armed uniformed Secret Service officers all afternoon. But people, we're told, are allowed to come out. But we've seen very few leaving. So perhaps not many people were at work. And those who were within the White House complex are still there because of what's happened. And again, this is right behind us. So Lafayette Square, the park is right here, the White House behind it. But we're pointed this way because we want you to look north on Connecticut Avenue from H Street. Both are closed. At least you can get this far on foot. But in terms of vehicle traffic, you can't get into this area anywhere close. And you're looking north at those flashing lights. They are on I Street at Connecticut, and just to the left, just to the west, 1 block is 17th Street, where this incident happened. 17th and I at the Farragut West Metro Station. And again, we don't know how long this is going to last, but we've seen, Secret Service Police, U.S. Park Police, Metro Transit Police, D.C. Police, all here as part of this ongoing investigation. The threat doesn't seem to be existing anymore, but in terms of where did this person come from, where were they, they're just trying to protect what is potentially a wider crime scene than just at 17th and I. And that's why what you're seeing here is the core of the downtown area near the White House, just still kind of off limits to almost everybody. And one of the people we've been speaking to this evening is Brian. Brian, tell us where you work and where you're trying to get to.
I'm at an agency at the intersection of 16th and H, kind of close 16th and I should say. And at this point, just really trying to get to my parking garage, which is right smack dab in the middle of the crime scene. And I'm a minute away from calling an Uber and just saying, forget it, and just giving up for the evening and having to come back and retrieve it after the holiday.
Who is home in Clinton waiting for you?
My elderly mother.
Really sorry, Mom, but she's not alone waiting for someone. Have they told you anything? I just asked you, but I wonder, do you know anything about when you might be able to get to your car if you don't go the Uber route?
No, I haven't heard anything. Only the fact that they may open it back up later on this evening. Exactly when, I have no idea.
That's a long Uber ride to Clinton, Maryland, right?
It is. So I was trying to avoid that, but sometimes you got to bite the bullet.
Yeah, and you were getting out early and to get home because it's the Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving, as a lot of people were. More tourists down here than workers. It's at least been my takeaway since we've been here this afternoon. But your reaction to what's happened here?
Very unfortunate situation. It's shocking. Unfortunately, it's very commonplace in today's society. Anything can happen anywhere, and you just always have to be vigilant and stay aware and just be ready.
Had you seen the National Guard presence in this area in your comings and goings when you get here to work?
Absolutely, daily.
And any interactions, like hello? Do they, or is it just kind of they're just here doing their thing?
They just appear to be doing their job. I try not to engage or really interact with them and just allow them, their space to do their business.
Brian, thanks very much. Good luck.
Thank
all
you
right,
very much.
Appreciate it. Happy Thanksgiving to you. So that's kind of the situation, and Brian's not alone. He's just one that we've been chatting with and who's been willing to talk to us. But I'm going to step out of the way again here. Take a look, Brian. Brian, that's Brian leaving. Doug is going to pan the camera here. These are folks who are trying to get to different places. There are restaurants around here that people have reservations for. And because of how, with the White House right here, guys, like it's not like, okay, well, just go down a block this way and cut over. If you're trying to go west, you've got to go east quite a bit, north quite a bit, or south quite a bit to go west where you're trying to get to, which may only be a block or two away. But just so many people have been just kind of stranded here by this investigation, which obviously is important, even though the authorities think it was a lone wolf situation, like a lone actor in this. But they want to just make sure everything is wisely protected as part of their investigation. But the ripple effect, the fallout, the impacts of that, as you see right here, this officer is trying to help this person. Maybe she was stuck in that building. We haven't seen anybody coming out of the buildings that are on the other side of the police tape, but that lady is on the other side and making her way out. It's just been a difficult time for a lot of people, but most are understanding because the most difficult is for the families of the people involved, the two West Virginia National Guardsmen who earlier the governor of West Virginia said had been killed here. But the FBI director, Kash Patel, says no, they're just critically wounded. So obviously everybody is praying that they'll pull through. But apart from that, outside of that, this has affected a lot of people on this night before Thanksgiving.
You're right about that, and we're definitely thinking about those National Guard members who are in critical condition at this hour. Bob, don't leave us just yet. I want to ask you, as you've been covering over the past few weeks, the thoughts over the National Guard being on the streets of D.C. This might feel too soon, but there are people debating right now, even as these guardsmen are in critical condition fighting for their lives, there's still that ongoing debate about whether or not they should be on the streets of D.C. Have you talked to people out there tonight? Obviously, no one wanted to see this happen, but there's been a lot of pent-up frustrations and tensions with the D.C. takeover that ultimately ended, but the troops are still there on the streets.
Yeah, no, we just spoke to a couple from D.C. That said they're not happy seeing the National Guard here on the streets of D.C., whether they're local or from out of state, but certainly didn't want to see anything like this happen. I think it's interesting. I believe a federal judge ruled recently that the deployment of the National Guard in D.C. was illegal, but as far as we know, the plan was to keep some of them here, rotating, obviously, but some National Guard presence here in D.C. through next summer. I believe we have some World Cup soccer games, and there are reasons they wanted to keep, the Trump administration wants to keep National Guards, men and women on the streets of D.C., not indefinitely, but for many months to come. But it's weird because you don't, to me at least, and I'm around out and about all the time, it doesn't seem to be an overwhelming presence since kind of like the surge, the 30-day surge of federal law enforcement has been pulled back. Yeah, you do see some National Guard, but it hasn't felt so overwhelming. And so I think maybe some people thought that they were already winding down, even though they weren't. Now, the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, says what happened today is going to force him to send 500 additional National Guard troops here. So if it's kind of felt like it's been easing back, even though we know they're going to be here for a while longer, I think the presence is going to be felt in a higher degree because of what happened today. And despite what happened today, I think there are going to be a lot of people not happy about that.
Yeah, you're right about that. But I'm curious to see how sentiments will change toward those National Guard troops who, again, citizen troops who they come here under orders by our federal government to do a job. But yet, and Bob, Angie, as you guys have seen, there's been viral videos of people playing, Star Wars, Darth Vader music, following behind these National Guard troops who are literally just following orders and trying to do their jobs and in some cases beautify the city as well. And the president, he also responded to this shooting. He posted on social media this afternoon about this incident, saying this was put out around 3:30 this afternoon. He called the gunman a, quote, animal who will pay a very steep price. We know the suspect was also shot following the attack. Police say they have non-life-threatening injuries. The president down in Mar-a-Lago with the First Lady for the Thanksgiving holiday, but monitoring the situation, getting updates from the FBI, from his DHS secretary as well.
Yeah, and we also heard from the Secretary of War. You heard Bob there alluding to the fact that, like it or not, there's going to be an increased presence when it comes to the National Guard. He just mentioned how Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth reacted to today's attack, saying that he wants hundreds more Guards members at the request of the president on the ground in the district.
In fact, this happened just steps away from the White House. It will not stand. And that's why President Trump has asked me, and I will ask the Secretary of the Army, to the National Guard to add 500 additional troops, National Guardsmen, to Washington, D.C. This will only stiffen our resolve to ensure that we make Washington, D.C. safe and beautiful.
Well, as of the latest update from the government, there are more than 2,100 National Guard troops already operating here in the district. A lot of them from this area, right. But as we've learned today, not from this area as well as the two Guard members who are now recovering, or we're still waiting to hear what condition they're in. We were told critical last, right. Are from West Virginia. And we don't know what it's going to look like as far as what this more visible presence is going to mean. I'm suspecting probably more foot patrols, right? Traffic patrols, especially around federal buildings. Like the White House, perhaps. And then I think what's interesting is that, to see if at this point they are not charged with any type of policing, right? But there is language in there, and there is something that can be done to where they can assist MPD and DC police in enforcement and policing without actually doing arrests. So
and it's very
interesting to see if their role changes in that capacity.
It's very likely that we will see more of what we have seen. They're just increasing the numbers, and you heard the chain of command from Pete Hegseth there that the president requested. Then Hegseth asked the Secretary of the Army to add 500 additional troops to the ranks there on the ground in the district. We have seen hundreds, a couple of thousand in this district, the district since the D.C. takeover. Again, the crime emergency ended months ago, but those troops have remained on the ground here in the district, helping with a number of projects, beautification as well. And they've been armed. Not all armed, but many are armed now. And
Which it didn't originally start that way.
It did not start that way. And now we understand, according to the officials who spoke from D.C. police, that those guards members who were targeted today, they were armed.
Yeah.
So we don't know if they got a shot off or if the suspect was shot by the National Guard members who came to help and rescue those 2 guard members who were on the ground. Witnesses say they were on the ground. We've seen images of them being loaded up with bloody fatigues in the back of ambulances. And again, they are at we understand 2 separate hospitals, according to the president. We have been outside George Washington University Hospital. In fact, we've been outside of several hospitals in that area waiting for any updates, because it is customary, it's common for doctors, for the medical teams to give updates when there is one. And this is a live look at GW Hospital right now. You see the police presence there. We actually see Secret Service outside that scene of the hospital as well.
Yeah, everybody is on high alert right now, as you can imagine. I think also, Kenneth, one thing that we are going to be watching next and will make up a lot of the coverage and the conversations around here in the coming days is going to be how long now? How long is this expansion going to last?
Yeah,
is it going to be extended?
Right. And will this impact the ongoing court battle with the Attorney General Brian Schwab, who's been challenging the deployment of the troops? And we reported in the past few days how a federal judge said that the president's order and his actions were illegal. But things were put on hold. We thought they were going to be in place at least until December 11th. But we know that the president, the Trump administration, wanted to keep these troops at least until 2026.
And when we talk about how the violence could impact and change the mission of this expansion that we're seeing, I think it's also important to point out that while it is not uncommon to have troops deployed to help, in times when there's major events and things like that. I mean, that's what the National Guard is, right? It's there to go when they're called, but it is a rarity for there to be an attack on our guardsmen. And so with that, a lot of people very shocked. And I believe that we spoke with a witness earlier today who described what they heard and what they saw.
I was walking to lunch and got to 17th and I Street, and we heard gunshots. So we ran about 4 or 5 storefronts down I Street. Then we kind of thought maybe it was construction. Then we heard another round of gunshots, probably like 10 seconds later, maybe even less. So we ran a little bit further. Then, after that, like a minute after that, a lot of people thought it was construction. So, like a lot of security people are out in the street. So I went back to get my lunch and witnessed they had one person pinned down and yelling at him to stay down. And then there were 2 National Guards on the ground. One, it looked like they were trying to resuscitate. And then there were a couple of National Guard that were hugging each other that were obviously very upset about what had happened.
Just a harrowing account there from a witness. Our Julie Donaldson actually spoke with him. She's live with us now, 17th and I Street. And Julie, you were one of the first on that scene. What was it like when you got there?
There was a lot of confusion, a lot of chaos. We were trying to get down the scene as quickly as possible. We got here about 3 o'clock. According to the witnesses that we talked to, this took place probably around 2:15 or so. And the police presence was very quick to respond. It didn't take long before, you're in Washington, D.C., before police, all the cars that are marked with their flashing lights, all the cars that are not marked, totally lined up here on I Street, all the way down to 17th Connecticut Avenue. That's where this was, Farragut West Metro Place. pretty much right in front of that. When we did get here, you could see a whole bunch of National Guard that were a little bit further into the park area. They had the streets all roped off with the police tape. It wasn't shortly or long after that they moved us back an entire block. The media have very heavy presence of media. A lot of people that are out here visiting D.C. that are, being tourists, or they're even working, trying to see what was going on out of sometimes curiosity. We talked to those that were actually witnesses, though, and with those that we talked to that actually saw what happened, there's a certain amount of unease when you are witnessing something like that, just as Michael did, of seeing somebody tackled and not entirely understanding exactly what went on and what happened. We heard a lot of different stories that are incredibly disturbing on the extent of things, but right now a lot of it is just people trying to gather information, and so you don't want to report anything and you don't want to hear anything until you do get official word on all of that. We did hear from, police and the mayor a little bit earlier. There may be another press briefing that comes later tonight that, of course, we will keep you in tune for when and if that does come down as we get more information here. But yeah, we're pushed back up to 16th Street, just a block down the road to my right. That's where Bob's at. We can see the White House. So this is not far off from right where that White House took place. Again, the presence was so heavy with police. We've seen people now trying to get home. I talked to one gentleman who was on his bike. He was in lockdown. He couldn't leave the office until they released that and let everybody out safe-wise. Everybody that was in offices, they were very concerned for each other, wondering, if those were inside, if they're safe. Is a shooter coming out to them? Because in these situations, when you don't know, there's a lot of floating information out there. There's a lot of fear that comes with that. Since now, here we are, almost 4 hours later, a lot of the media has dispersed. A lot of people have kind of gone on their way, and hopefully they can be able to get to their families and be able to hug somebody a little bit closer tonight, given the circumstances that happened here today.
All right, Julie, thank you so much. And we've been talking about these National Guard troops who have been deployed in our city for months now, and trying to get a handle on crime to assist with D.C. police and federal officials here. And as we think about those two National Guard members who are in critical condition, we think about what they do and what they've been doing for the district and what they do annually. They say 2 weeks a year, 1 week in a month, these citizen troops. And so who better to go to find out exactly what these National Guard members go through than a veteran? Chris Purdy, who's joining us live right now. Chris, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Your quick reaction, where are you? Tell us about your service as well, and your thoughts on what has happened to these National Guard members.
Sure. So I served in the Virginia National Guard and deployed to Iraq in 2011. I joined after 9/11 in 2004 as a combat engineer. And many, like many veterans in that time, I wanted to serve my community. And I was trying to figure out what is the best way to go about doing that. And the Army National Guard was that calling. And so what we're seeing tonight, this is probably the worst thing that could have happened to our members in the National Guard. They love this country. They're doing the best that they can in really difficult circumstances. And, I understand this is the West Virginia National Guard. And I tell the story, actually, I was walking through U Street a couple of weeks ago, and I ran into a staff sergeant, and I asked him, "How are you finding DC?" He's from the West Virginia National Guard. And he said, "Well, I just got married." And that told me everything I needed to know about the morale, the way that he was feeling about this mission, and to see these folks targeted like this is truly horrifying.
Yeah, and Chris, you have been in the uniform, right? You've worn this uniform. Given your experience, how prepared are Guard members for unexpected instances like we saw today, when things like this happen, the unimaginable, the worst possible scenario?
So I think a lot of people have this misconception about the National Guard. I heard you say earlier 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year. Actually, the National Guard is deploying at rates incredibly high, about as high as it was in the surge in 2008, 2009. So the Guard is a professional force. It has been transformed over the past 25 years. And the members of our National Guard are well prepared to handle pretty much everything that comes at them. That being said, this is a mission that frankly never should have happened. The fact that we have hundreds of National Guard troops who don't live in the district, who are not from the community, who don't understand the environment here, they've been called up when, if the reason is to be believed that federal law enforcement or local law enforcement should actually be the ones leading here. That's really the travesty that we should be thinking about. There was no reason for this attack to have happened. And while we don't know the reason, the motives of the shooter, what we do know is that escalating this by bringing more troops in, by having them stay longer, is not going to de-escalate the situation.
Yeah, there definitely have been growing tensions over this deployment of National Guard troops. We've seen the protests. We've seen, I mentioned the viral videos earlier of people walking behind them. And I know, Chris, as you said, they have a job to do. You're still serving. You have a job to do if you get those orders. And it's something where you feel for the troops, but these are people who love their country, as you mentioned, and they just want to serve.
That's right. Many of these folks, if they wanted to serve in federal law enforcement, they would have done that. The skill set is there, but they didn't. So I understand the frustration that many DC residents feel about this deployment. But the reality is that these folks are here and they don't want to be here either. They don't want to be in DC. They want to be at home with their kids, with their family members. We've heard instances of members of the National Guard, their family members having serious medical injuries, strokes, for example, and not being able to get home to be with their loved ones. So they're under an enormous amount of stress and pressure, and I empathize with residents of the district who don't like the Guard being here. But the reality is they don't want to be here either, and we just need to figure out a way to make sure that this ends as peacefully as possible.
Chris Purdy, National Guard veteran from Virginia National Guard, also served in Iraq. Thank you for your service, and thank you for joining us tonight and giving us your insight.
Thanks so much.
And our continuing coverage will continue right after this.
Our breaking news coverage continues at this hour. 2 National Guard troops shot fighting for their lives at this hour. This is a live look at that scene at 17th and I Streets near the White House, where there was a targeted attack of 2 National Guard members.
Yeah, we know that a suspect right now was taken into custody shortly after this attack, around 3 o'clock this afternoon. That person is believed to have been shot as well, but with non-life-threatening injuries. Now, there was some initial confusion, as we reported earlier, out of West Virginia from the West Virginia governor's office, with him first initially announcing that the 2 guardsmen had died, but then doing an about-face on that, saying now that there's only conflicting reports, and at this time we know that they are in critical condition and they are being treated at 2 local hospitals. As we take a live look, I believe this is GW Hospital, where we have seen a huge police presence. I know, Kenneth, you mentioned you saw some Secret Service outside of the hospital as well. FBI, we heard from FBI Director Kash Patel earlier, who is taking the lead on this investigation, one that is having huge coordination between not only local but other federal agencies as well. But they are the ones, Patel says, that they are overseeing the investigation. No real conclusions yet as far as why this happened, any type of motives. I mean, there's still a lot of unanswered questions. We don't know the names of the 2 guard members. We don't know the name of the suspect who is in custody right now. What we do know is that the crime scene has been secured. Roads are still blocked. White House is still on lockdown. A lot of businesses on the eve before Thanksgiving closing up shop early.
And we must remind people that because of where this shooting happened, in one of the most secure places in the world, there are a number of surveillance cameras. And we understand from D.C. police, they have seen video of that shooting, so they were able to assess pretty quickly what happened, which is that lone gunman, a man believed to be the only person, perpetrator in this, who came around the corner there at 17th and I Street near the Farragut West Metro stop, correct? And opened fire, essentially targeting, ambushing those 2 guards members. And there were 2 or several other National Guard members who heard those gunshots, came around the corner quickly, and were able to take that gunman down. Again, non-life-threatening injuries were told that he suffered. We don't know how he was shot, but we do know, as you take another live look at that scene there, this is a very large police response and presence. You see a number of federal officials. You see the FBI, ATF, all on this scene right now, huddling. We will stand by to see if there's another briefing, but when we heard from the mayor and other federal officials earlier, they confirmed that those National Guard members are still in critical condition after the conflicting reports. They gave us a little bit more information. Here's Mayor Bowser now.
And we join with the FBI director in ensuring that MPD investigates, the U.S. Attorney prosecutes this case to the fullest extent of the law. I've had the opportunity to brief U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi, who was speaking to the president when I called, as well as the United States Attorney Pirro, who assured me that this case will have her office's complete attention. This is a targeted shooting. One individual who appeared to target these guardsmen, that individual has been taken into custody.
All right, and that was the mayor responding shortly after being briefed on the situation. Someone who has been there all afternoon and staying with us through the evening is Josh Rosenthal, who I feel like you got maybe as close as you could get, or as we could get, to what was going on around that perimeter.
Yeah, and guys, I'll start here. It goes without saying that the most important parts of this whole ordeal are what happened here tonight, the condition of these guardsmen, and why it happened. But in addition to that, which we've been talking about for hours here on scene, an important bit of context is where this all happened. And so I want to break that down for you now. I'm standing at the intersection of 16th and I, and if you follow me in this direction, Jesse Burkett Hall, photographer, doing a great job. We're being careful because, as you can see, these roads are back open. One block up there, 17th and I, That's where these shootings took place. It's a very busy area. You've got people working, people who would have been going out to restaurants. As you can see now, there's still quite a few law enforcement vehicles up there. I will point out, however, while we would expect these investigators to stay here throughout the night, this is, from my vantage point, from my perspective, a smaller group of investigators than we saw earlier on today, right after all of this unfolded, as you would expect. Now, another important bit of information. I heard Kenneth earlier talk about how this is one of the most secure areas in the world, and that's true because, take a look up here. We'll walk in this direction. Jesse, watch your step here, a little curb. This is the White House that you're looking at. That's just 2 blocks up. The White House is there. The White House still on lockdown this evening. The president, I should mention, is not there tonight. But again, we talk about security, one of the most secure buildings in the world. It's just up there, and then over here, just a few blocks away, this is where that shooting happened tonight. I want you to take one more look, if you can, at the scene up there, and I'll run you through some of the people who we've talked to here on scene tonight. We've seen a lot of people who just so happen to be coming down here because they were going to eat dinner. Some couples who had come out because they just wanted to spend a night in downtown D.C. ahead of the holidays. All of them saying the same thing. This is tragic. And they hate hearing it, and they hate seeing the aftermath of it. We also spoke with a woman who said that she works down in this direction. Her car is in there. To my knowledge, she still has not been able to get her vehicle tonight. She was hanging out with us for a little while, and I believe took an Uber or possibly grabbed the Metro home. We also, as I hop back on camera here, spoke with another woman who says she works about a block from where this happened, 17th in Pennsylvania. She said she'd worked a half day today, so she was already home. She told us she came back just to say a prayer for these members of the National Guard who were shot. And that gets me to one other important piece of this story, I think, in my view. And that's the deployment of the National Guard is controversial. A lot of people don't like it. However, when you talk about the actual individuals, the guardsmen, who in this case were victims of this tragedy today and others, they don't have a choice in the matter. This is the holidays. They're not home with their families. They're here with us. And so this woman was saying that she is thinking about them, and she was also saying that in her interactions with the guardsmen, who we see very frequently for these past few months in particular, down in areas like this, she said it's been good. And her heart goes out to them, and that is who she and so many others are thinking of tonight. So guys, again, very active crime scene up here, 17th and I. We're going to continue to be out here tonight and make sure to bring you the latest at home. Guys.
Josh, thank you so much, and we echo those sentiments. Definitely behind 100%, and thinking about those who step up to serve in this capacity and also their family. There's a saying in the military that, you know, when you serve, your family serves, and there's nothing truer than that. You talked about security, and with that, that leads us to our next guest, former Undersecretary of Homeland Security, Jack Tumarchio, joining us now. Jack, thanks so much. My first question to you is, based off the limited information that we have right now, what we know right now, what stands out to you about what unfolded when it comes to national security, from a national security perspective?
Well, I think certainly we're concerned about whether this is an isolated incident by one individual. Maybe he's deranged, maybe he's got an agenda. But certainly we have to wonder whether this is just one incident isolated, or whether there's going to be a series of attacks that will be certainly a different calculus than what we have right now.
Wow.
And Jack, when it comes to as all of these agencies come together here to try to figure out exactly what happened, we know D.C. police is heavy in this investigation. In fact, during that news conference, yes, FBI says we're the lead. Kash Patel spoke first, but we got a number of the nuts and bolts, as we call it, a number of the details from D.C. police. How integral is D.C. police in this investigation that happened and the shooting that happened in the district?
Well, they're really like the first responders down there. The D.C. police are on the street. They know the neighborhood. They're the ones that actually got the perpetrator. So this is a crime scene investigation. Whether it was National Guardsmen or whether it was just some individual, a pedestrian on the street that was shot. So right now, the D.C. police, of course, in addition to the FBI, are going to be running the forensics, trying to talk to other people. Obviously, they have the individual, find out who he is, what his motivations are, if he'll talk. So it's right now it's in the purview of the Metro Police, DC Police, and the Bureau working together.
All right. What does this announcement of bringing an extra 500 National Guardsmen to the nation's capital, what does that signal to you?
I'm not really sure what that signals. That could be the president just trying to stiffen the response to make sure that the guardsmen that are already there are protected by having more guardsmen there. It could be a political statement that, because he has said in the past that DC is a town, a city that's got a lot of problems, a lot of crime problems. So I think we're really unsure of why that decision to plus up with 500 to surge more troopers guard troopers into the district was made. I think we need to find that out more from the White House.
And we're obviously hyper-focused on D.C., especially after this incident, Jack. But what do you think this does for the deployments of troops around the country in Charlotte and Illinois and Portland?
Well, I think what it does, it certainly raises the force protection issue. One of the things that commanders are always concerned about, I'm a former Army colonel, is that you want to make sure you protect your force. So if something like this happened in the District of Columbia, the people that are in Charlotte and other parts of the country where guardsmen are now presently deployed, their force protection antenna just went up because it's already happened to 2 guardsmen from West Virginia in Washington. So right now, all of the Guard is stiffening up and making sure that force protection is rising to the top of the whatever their agenda is.
Right, but Jack, isn't there a political argument here, though, that, and I hate to bring this up as 2 National Guard members are fighting for their lives in the hospital, but this is part of the ongoing debate here about whether they should be on these streets or not. So if you look at this incident in particular, someone targeted them most likely because they're on the streets, but they're here to deter crime. Not cause more crime. Do you see what I'm saying here and what I'm getting at? So should they even be on the streets even after this incident because of the tensions that are boiling over in this city because of their deployment?
Well, I think it's a little premature to make the assumption that they were targeted because they're here as National Guardsmen. We don't know why this individual picked these 2 soldiers out. He may have just had a beef against the military. He could be a guy who's mentally deranged and just decide to kill people. We just don't know right now. So I think for us to say there's a political reason behind this, or there's another reason that has to do with deployment of National Guard troops throughout the country, I think that's a little premature.
No, Jack, Jack, sorry to cut you off, but I agree with you. I'm taking my cues from the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, who says they were targeted. I'm taking my cues from the President of the United States, who says they were targeted for being on the streets.
Again, we don't know that. I mean, President Trump can say that, but he probably doesn't know either. I don't think anybody knows why these guys were targeted yet. So for us to jump to a conclusion that they were targeted because they're National Guardsmen and the shooter has a political agenda about that, I think is very premature.
And I agree with you on that point.
And, and on that note, how unusual is it for Guard members who are serving a domestic mission to be targeted by violence?
Very unusual, especially in this case where these 2 soldiers were just probably standing around, thinking about they'd rather be home for Thanksgiving. When you have National Guardsmen who are injured in the line of duty, it's usually as a result of a civil disturbance, a riot or something like that. So this is a very unusual and unique act of violence against these 2 targeted soldiers.
Okay. Yeah, an unusual an uncommon act of violence, but it's also unusual and uncommon to have them on an American city street trying to deter crime as well. Hey, Jack Tarmuccio, we appreciate your time, and we thank you so much. And I know it sounds weird to say this, but happy Thanksgiving, friend.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to our breaking news coverage here of the shooting near the White House in Northwest D.C. Downtown D.C., 2 National Guard members shot in critical condition at this hour.
We want to now head on out back to Julie Donaldson. She's joining us live once again. She was first on the scene for us and has had the opportunity to speak with many people who were there when this all unfolded. Julie?
Yeah, Angie and Kenneth, so many different witnesses that we talked to, and all of their stories are very disturbing of the moments that unfolded around 2:15 this afternoon when this took place right outside of Farragut West Metro. Now, we don't know whether or not the suspect actually came from the Metro, but that's pretty much right where it was. When we first got here coming down this street, there were police cars that were lined for blocks the entire way down. It was roped off. We had to walk a couple of blocks just to get close up to the scene. And already once we got there, there were so many people that were standing around looking and trying to see what was going on. There were so many media crews that were already coming out. And of those that witnessed what happened, it was incredibly disturbing for them. Here's one of those women's accounts.
I heard boom, boom, 2 times. And then the Uber driver said, "Why are all these people running?" So then I look out the window and it's little children, adults running, children on both sides of the street, running in the opposite direction. The supervision is saying to the children, "Go, go, run." And then I heard help, help in the direction of the shooting.
We now do know that, officially 2 National Guardsmen have been shot and are fighting for their lives with that other person, the suspect, taken into custody. But for those that were here and saw what was going on, there was a lot of confusion. There was a lot of chaos. We talked to somebody else that was right here. He said he ran 4 blocks down the road and was just scared, but at first they thought maybe it was construction. So just a lot of talking on what potentially and what actually went down here as people were trying to figure it out. Now, the police presence is still, as you can see behind me, very heavy, but they have moved everybody back. Where I would say there was probably, a couple hundred people. There's not as many that are out here right now, but we are still waiting more information. I did a story back in the end of September on the National Guard, and while, their crime emergency time was up, we were talking about extending and what would they be doing with their time. And a lot of different wards were voting on whether or not they wanted the National Guard in their neighborhoods for the beautification, to help kind of clean it up. And obviously their presence would bring around security. The time we were talking about how with them here, homicides are down, crime has been down, car break-ins were down, but everybody knew that that was something that they didn't necessarily want them to have to be here. But it becomes that question of just what is it that you can do to try to make this place safer. And now with the National Guard being here, we're seeing that it was not safe here today. We're still having police presence coming and going on the street as we're trying to just make sense of everything that happened here just a day before Thanksgiving, guys.
Yeah. All right, Julie, thank you. And just moments ago, we just learned that the White House has lifted its lockdown. It's been on lockdown since the 2:15 shooting. So some almost 5 hours now that the White House has been on lockdown, which is not only common in the situation, but it was definitely needed after the proximity of this shooting near the White House. The president and the first lady at Mar-a-Lago tonight.
And Vice President Vance speaking out about the target attack during a Thanksgiving visit to military members at Fort Campbell in Kentucky. This is a little bit of what he had to say.
But I think it's a somber reminder that soldiers, whether they're active duty, reserve, or National Guard, our soldiers are the sword and the shield of the United States of America. And as a person who goes into work every single day in that building and knows that there are a lot of people who wear the uniform of the United States Army, let me just say very personally, thank them for what they're doing.
All right, and that was the vice president in Kentucky speaking earlier today. Joining us now this hour, though, is D.C. Shadow Representative Oye Owalea. Thank you so much for joining us during this difficult time for the city, for our U.S. military. First, I would love to get your reaction to the shooting here today near the White House.
Yes, thanks for having me. We in D.C., we condemn all senseless gun violence, and we're really out here. I'm actually right around the situation, and we're just praying for the lives of these West Virginia National Guardsmen and their families. We also want to point out that the National Guardsmen should be at home. They should be with their family right as we prepare for Thanksgiving. And we're thinking about them, but we're also calling for this occupation to end.
You know, as you call for this occupation to end, I'm curious about how you just heard the developments there that the Pentagon, the Trump administration is going to send 500 additional troops to D.C. It does feel like, even though with the court challenges, with the challenges from A.G. Schwab, that this deployment won't end anytime soon, especially in light of the shooting.
Yeah, we're pushing it to end because this is not about public safety. D.C. is facing about a 30-year low in violent crime, and these National Guardsmen are not equipped to police our streets. You know, we're worried about these 500 National Guardsmen potentially being armed, potentially shooting D.C. residents. You know, we're following a week where 3 unarmed black men were killed, and we're seeing a fever pitch and emotion. We're seeing folks that are already straining their relationship with the current MPD, and we don't believe that this is going to solve any issue, only just fan the flames of distrust.
What would you say, though, to those who live in D.C. or work or play around the nation's capital who are concerned about safety, especially after watching this violence unfold in the heart of downtown today?
Look, public safety is an issue in D.C., just like it is everywhere. But I believe in meaningful investment. I believe in getting young people into activities versus being alone on the streets. And I believe in doing the work that's already being done. We may have fewer police, but like I said before, we have much less crime than the past year and the year before. So just trusting our leadership, just, you know, neighborhood watching and really supporting each other is really going to help us reduce these issues. But I'm also calling the White House to reinstitute the Commission on Gun Safety, led by my friend Greg Jackson. They ended it earlier this year, and we're seeing highs in shootings, not only in D.C., but everywhere else. So putting in investments and reducing the rhetoric on the need of more National Guards, I believe, will make D.C. much safer.
All right, D.C.'s Shadow Representative, we appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. We've had continuing coverage here, but there's still a holiday tomorrow, and there's a lot of holiday travel happening, and we need to turn our attention to the weather because it is still important.
It is. It's top of mind for a lot of people because it affects everybody, right?
It sure does.
No matter where you live. So we want to bring in meteorologist Mike Thomas because in addition to those who have waited last minute perhaps to travel, there are a lot of events and parades and things like that that kick off after we all eat turkey tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. And today might give you a false impression of what's to come because if you're able to make it outside this afternoon, that sun felt nice. 18 degrees above average. We haven't had a day like this in 3 weeks. That's how long it's been since we've seen temperatures warmer than 72 degrees here in Washington. So we did tell you today was going to be the best day of the week in terms of temperatures. That's already starting to change out there as winds are shifting around tonight. They could get quite gusty as they bring in some much colder air for Thanksgiving Day. Going to feel completely different around here tomorrow. Live look outside National Harbor, the wheel all aglow, 66 degrees. Honestly, still decently mild. As mentioned before, winds have turned out of the south to the west-northwest. Right now, light of variety, but they are going to get gusty later this evening, so we're preparing you for that. And you see the blue kind of sneaking in, Cumberland down in the 40s tonight. That cold air is going to be working its way into town come tomorrow. Quantico, 68 degrees, Leonardtown 63, Annapolis 64. Most locations in and around D.C. still quite mild for this time of year. Just a couple of sprinkles and showers, mostly down across southern Maryland at this hour, down across Charles, northern St. Mary's, getting into Calvert County there. A couple light sprinkles coming down wouldn't shock me. Did actually have earlier this afternoon, because of the warmth out there, some thunderstorms went through our northern zones, mostly north of Baltimore there, but did see some lightning and thunder reports up near Cockeysville there in Baltimore County that then went over near Aberdeen as the afternoon worked its way forward here. Big picture showing you that storm system, and certainly if you're traveling up near the Great Lakes, that's sort of been the area we've been highlighting as having the most significant travel troubles. Snow fell in Chicago a little bit earlier today. Traverse City, Green Bay getting some snow right now. So again, if your holiday travels take you anywhere north and west, be warned, it's quite wintry up that way, and the lake effect snows not going to stop in many locations overnight tonight and through your Thanksgiving Day on Thursday. Some spots, Pennsylvania and New York, are expecting several feet of snow from those, they're localized, but from those lake effect snow bands on Thanksgiving Day. They'll have the snow shovels out in many locations. Temperature